Oh, when the scamps come marching in. Oh, when the scamps come marching in. Well, I want to be on that podcast when them scamps come marching in. I'm Nathan Simmons.
And I'm Dustin Goes to Hollywood. And Nathan, not to outdo you, but I also prepared a little musical bit. So if you will indulge me.
Oh, please, yes. Oh, boy. I'm grooving. I'm loving it.
It's quite a long intro.
Yeah.
Sing hallelujah, come on, be happy. Podcast your cares away. Some think this movie's really crappy. Here's what we have to say. Sorry.
Spectacular.
I'm out of breath.
Having you on camera for that was great.
Oh, thank you, JT. Thank you so much. I mean, there was a whole tap dancing routine that people aren't going to be able to see, but I got my Joker sweats on, baby, you know?
Yeah.
My little red outfit.
It's the Joker, baby. What is this? What are we doing today?
I don't know anymore. I don't know, because much like this movie, this show has kind of lost its way, too.
Good Lord have mercy.
This, if you haven't already been able to tell, is the Silver Linings Playlist, a podcast that tries to find the silver lining in the justice system.
Yeah, in society.
In society. What is a society? We live in one, apparently.
Oh, we're balls deep in one.
Making society babies. Man.
Or are we? Is our girlfriend just lying about having a society?
Is this the second movie in a row where a girlfriend has been a figment of an imagination? Or I don't know. We'll figure it out. Or maybe we won't. Who knows? This is Joker Folie, Deux, also known as... You know what? I think there may be a typo in this title, Nathan.
Yeah?
I think it's supposed to be called Smoker.
Oh my God, absolutely.
The amount of cigarettes in this movie
I think it should be called Joker Folie Me Once. Shame on you.
Oh, hold on. There you go.
Yeah, I got a sad little honk.
And so I should put this out up top. JT reached out to me after last week's episode, Noah, and said, "Hey man, is there any way you can get like some new sound effects that are like Tex Avery or like Looney Tunes sound effects?" And I was like, "I'm on a mission." And some very kind soul was able to upload not only the full Hanna-Barbera sound effects collection.
Oh my God.
But also Warner Brothers. So this episode is a Warner Brothers movie. And it's a silly movie. So we got, we're going to be doing some silly bits on this episode.
A Warner Bros. Movie in which the Joker does an impression of two different Looney Tunes. One more successful than the other.
I think we're going to agree on that one entirely. That may be the best scene of the movie to me. Anyway.
You know how there's that guy in your class who just does impressions and he's like, but like poorly, but like that's where the comedy like peaks. That's the Joker in this movie.
Yeah, and I should mention for those who normally listen to us, Mally's not here. He's in Arkham Asylum. They locked him up. He's having to dump out his own piss bucket.
He gets to dump out his own piss bucket.
He gets to. He's allowed to.
He killed 5 people, one on national television.
And we're still having a trial. It's like, Scarecrow in The Dark Knight Rises. He's like, this isn't a trial. This is just a sentencing.
That's right.
This is all this is. And we're lucky to be joined by JT, who's here. JT, did you watch Smoker 2?
I did.
Okay.
I did, yeah.
Too smoke, too furious. His smoke too strong, his bitch too bad. They'll kill you, Joker.
His stance, whack. His smoke, whack.
His underwear, whack.
The way he doesn't even smile when you make jokes.
Did you see Joker 2 before, JT, or was this your first time?
This was my first time.
Oh boy, Nathan, this was yours as well, right?
It sure was, okay. Dustin. I had a feeling it was going to be on the schedule this year, and I'm going to just jump right into it.
Oh boy.
I don't particularly love or like 2019's Joker.
Todd Phillips' Joker.
Todd Phillips is DC's Warner Brothers Joker. Yeah.
DC Black, I think, is the official title.
Yeah, right. One of the many sub-labels that we decided to throw away. You know, much like when we made The Kitchen and put a Vertigo logo in front of it and then closed Vertigo for 5 years. I didn't love Joker.
Okay.
And a lot of that is it is one of those movies that has become very difficult for me to separate the sort of cynicism with which it was created more so than the cynicism that is present in the film. You know, when the movie was coming out, there were all of those. Well, particularly when the movie was to use industry parlance, a big tittied hit. There was a lot of conversation from the creatives involved, particularly Todd Phillips, where it was this idea of, quote, let's sneak a real movie into theaters by using some of this cape shit to like trick people into seeing our real art. And you know, you can just say that you wanted to make a tribute to, you know, Martin Scorsese instead of, or in Paul Schrader instead of, I don't know.
Did they put in that first Joker trailer, Joker 1, did they put executive produced by Martin Scorsese in the trailer? I don't remember.
I don't recall.
Okay.
I do remember that trailer blowing me away.
It was great.
I remember being extremely excited to see that movie. And I remember leaving the theater feeling very impressed by it. And it is a feeling that has sort of soured over time, both as I've grown as a film fan and I've gone back through many of the movies that directly inspired it. And also just my general feelings toward Todd Phillips as a creative and Joaquin Phoenix as a performer. I've said on this show multiple times, no, method acting is fine. No one should ever suffer for your performance. No one else should ever have to be like, oh yeah, you gotta be careful, Joaquin might hit you because he's so in character.
Yeah, and I think Joaquin's slowly maybe turning into the Joker in real life, like stepping away from the Todd Haynes movie at the last minute and causing chaos there. Like, and did you end up seeing Beau is Afraid?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What'd you think? I don't think we ever talked about that. What'd you think about it?
I really dig it.
Me too.
I need to watch it again.
Yeah.
But I think it's an audacious film and a fearless performance, which is what I appreciate about both of those filmmakers. Or well, about Ari Aster as a filmmaker and Joaquin Phoenix as a performer. But yeah, and to be honest, I was guardedly excited for Joker 2 when it was first announced. Even when the first rumors that it was a musical were coming out, I was like, oh my, okay, so it's not just going to be a cash in, like they're doing a big swing with this. Yeah. And I feel like that's where the pitch ended. Yeah. We'll get into my feelings about the movie as a whole, but I've never seen a film that feels like DLC.
So, oh man. Well, before I give my thoughts on the movie, JT, what'd you think?
I really didn't have any expectations going in, just because after watching the first one, and then you guys were telling me that it was a musical just from the tease of this episode, last episode. I didn't even have an idea that it was a musical.
Wow.
Mostly hidden in a lot of the marketing. You know, a weird trend.
And I thought it was either going to be really bad or really mid. Yeah, it was a fine line between those two.
I want to throw this out real quick. Am I to understand I am the only person on this call that likes musical theater?
Probably. I don't know. JT might have a secret life that we don't know about.
I enjoy musicals. Yeah.
Okay.
I will say that with the caveat that I am very selective when it comes to musicals. The idea of the musical appeals to me. One, in that old Hollywood look at 'em go kind of vibe. Yeah. But also I love musicals appeal to me in the same way that like soap operas appeal to me, where like characters feel things so fucking strongly that this is the only way they can, express themselves. Sure. And there are moments in this movie that come close to what I like about musical theater. But for the most part, I think that the musical aspect is a roadblock in this movie.
I can get down with that. So my question to you, because you brought up a good point, it does seem like there's a trend of studios not wanting to market their musicals as musicals.
It took until 3 weeks before release before they started putting the musical numbers in the trailers for Wicked. Mm-hmm. Like they hid that Wicked, one of the most famous musicals of the last 2 decades, was a musical.
I could be wrong. I think I may be able to pinpoint the moment that caused this turn in how musicals are promoted.
It's Sweeney Todd, right?
I think it's later than that.
Okay.
I think I could be wrong because I don't see many musicals, but I feel like it would be Cats, right?
This second wave, sure. Yeah.
Because Cats was marketed as a musical. And I feel like ever since then, I haven't seen many, even Wonka, I haven't seen many movies marketed that are musicals as musicals.
Well, and what's so interesting, so I distinctly remember being in the theater for Sweeney Todd, which was not advertised as a musical, and people were leaving as the song started.
Same with this movie.
And when Cats is a great point, though, because there was like sort of a second wave of movie musicals, which I think was largely kicked off by La La Land being so beloved. But the director of Cats had made Les Mis, which itself wasn't really advertised as a musical until it started to do really well.
Sure. And
then depending on, the stories that you believe from behind the scenes of Cats, that director then was like, you can't tell me shit.
Yeah.
So everything's going to be sung live. We're going to do whatever we want. We're going to shoot it, then animate over every single frame later. And, depending on whether you've read the reporting from Variety or not, Todd Phillips approached Joker 2 in very much the same energy.
Was The Greatest Showman advertised as a musical?
Yeah. It was. That's a great call out. That movie was huge too. A movie I don't particularly care for.
I don't think Hugh Jackman would let a movie where he is a star of as a musical after Les Mis came out. I don't think he'd let you market a movie any other way. Mm-hmm. I think he's like, it's a goddamn musical.
Sure.
When I was like, my favorite part about musicals is these characters. Greatest Showman is a great example of this. Where like, when they're performing, that's one thing. Yeah. When it's between a private moment between two characters and they're singing. But then you have like, they're walking the streets and singing. And in my head, I'm just thinking everybody else is just looking at this group singing about the rights.
Yeah. That is, as an actor, that is the hardest thing to unlock when I'm in a musical. And I don't do them very often. I did one this year for the first time in over a decade. And it is so hard for me to maintain that singing energy, quote unquote, while I'm having a dialogue scene. Like I can't, it is so hard to marry the two. So in a way, it's kind of impressive that Joker 2 does away with that in a lot of times, but it makes you question the reality in a way that I don't sometimes is intentional and sometimes I don't think is intentional.
So I may be the only one on this call that actually likes this movie. I understand I'm in the minority, and I'm on record as liking the first movie as well. And just to make sure, because I've now seen this movie twice, I went back today and rewatched the original, and I still like it. Now, here's the thing I will say. It is very difficult for me as someone who enjoys both movies to say I like this movie and then also pretend to play dumb about the movie's politics, which I think are not good.
Yeah.
But that being said, I find it very hard to explain why I like this movie in particular. I feel like the first one's a little bit easier to defend. This one I find hard because as soon as I start thinking about like, well, I like it because of this reason, I also can immediately think of the rebuttal of why I shouldn't like it because of that same reason.
Yes.
I don't know if that makes any sense, but...
No, absolutely, because Joker 1 is a movie that asks you to empathize with this person who is, by their own admission, doing terrible things. It also is an angry indictment of the way that we discard the people who are less fortunate than us and people who need help. And those are the things in that movie that I very much respond to. It's the sort of martyrdom / hero worship aspect of the end of Joker that doesn't sit quite as well with me, but works if the third act of Joker is in his head, which it is very strongly implied in that movie that like the last 15 minutes or so, the riot and the ensuing murders are in his head. This movie says, no, all that shit happened, so deal with that. Also, you should still feel bad for how pathetic Arthur is, but also you shouldn't because he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I think that the problem with Joker Folie à Deux is that it doesn't have much to say beyond fuck you if you liked Joker.
So I agree.
Fuck you if you made me, Todd Phillips, personally millions of dollars.
This is where I find it very hard to discuss this movie in particular because on the one hand, I fully agree that I think Todd Phillips' intent with this movie is to say, you all didn't understand my last movie, and therefore I'm going to kill this character in a way that like you cannot sympathize with him.
Right.
I feel like that's the intention, both literally and, metaphorically.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I do think that this is, to me, musical aspects are not aside, the next logical step in this story, if that makes sense.
It is. The problem is that there's not much story to be told. You know what I mean?
I'm good with that.
Really?
I understand that most people say this movie doesn't go anywhere, that it spins its wheels, that it's just recapping the first movie.
Yeah.
That Lady Gaga is stuck doing nothing, but that's kind of why I like it.
I don't entirely agree with the idea that it doesn't do anything besides because I think the recap stuff really happens in the second half, but it does feel like most of the movie is just sort of relitigating the first film to me, and I don't know if it needs to be a full movie that you then say, hey, everything that happened in the first movie was bad, and all you people that got it to $1 billion and dressed as the Joker for Halloween and, side with his politics, or even when he says, I'm not being political, which is in itself a political statement. Right.
Like, I like that the second half of this movie is a courtroom drama where it's like, look at all these people that he hurt, whether he intended to or not.
Right.
Even the ones he, quote unquote, saved or rescued or even like didn't involve himself with directly. Like, it has an impact.
With the most effective of those being the Gary Puddles interrogation.
Oh my God.
It's great.
I'm looking up the actor's name right now, but he is the MVP of the movie.
1000%.
Lee Gill.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something that may feel like a stretch, and I'm not doing a bit. I think he deserves a supporting actor nom.
He's great.
I think
he's exceptional.
I think he is on the level of like Mahershala in Moonlight in terms of like the minimal amount of screen time he has versus the impact that he has.
That's a great call out. I think the other thing that makes this movie worthwhile as a long-term Batman fan, and I know that I am approaching this film that wants absolutely nothing to do with DC Comics.
Yeah.
That is not, unfortunately, there's a bad reputation among people who dislike this movie because there are a lot of bros who are just like, well, that's not fucking comics, and that's not how I'm coming at it. I think it is interesting to see a story where the Joker goes to trial.
Yeah.
Because in the 90-year history of Batman, this guy just kind of keeps getting thrown in a jail cell and then breaks out and does it all again and shows zero remorse. And it's kind of great to see this, eternal supervillain see consequences for his actions and feel like shit over it.
I've never thought of that.
Right?
About the Joker going to trial. He's been on a talk show, though.
That's true.
Both Jokers.
Yeah.
JT, did you know going into this movie that Todd Phillips, the director, had said, I think he even said this with the last movie. I could be wrong, Nathan. Maybe you remember better than me.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know going into this that he said this Joker that we're witnessing in these two movies is not italicized the Joker?
He has started saying that on this press tour.
This movie.
He is for the first movie, he was very cagey about it, but he was just like, yeah, there's a chance. I mean, absolutely, this is the murder that inspires Bruce Wayne to become Batman. And,
sure.
And then in the new one, he's just like, no, he's a Joker. This is just a Joker origin story. The old Gotham Gambit.
Yeah.
That's really confusing.
Does that make the ending of the movie make more sense then?
It does. My beef with this movie has nothing to do with the ending.
I'm talking, okay, hold on.
No, this is the movie that this is what we were talking off mic. It's the light year of Batman movies.
Is this like the fourth universe of DC or DC adjacent? Is that what we call it? DC Black? What is it?
I think that title's even gone now.
Yeah, they were going to call it DC Elseworlds, but then I don't think that logo appears in the film at all. There's a DC Comics logo at the end of the trailer, or at the end of the credits.
Yeah.
As far away as possible as from the movie.
Right.
It's after the credits.
I guess my question, JT, is when you went into watching this, did you know that this is not the Joker? And when that ending happened, did that color how you viewed it?
I mean, obviously not.
But I don't think anybody did, because that was not really the mission statement.
I didn't think any of this was... I thought it was just its own isolated... Just let it be a story, and which is why I obviously I like the first one better than this one.
Yeah.
But like it being its own little isolated in a box, this is a Joker.
I mean, he has talked about it before, where he's like, he could be the clown prince of crime, but I don't know. Like, that was kind of the vibe in the first one. And then this whole press tour has been like, no, Harley Quinn is a fucking stupid name. We're going to call her Lee. And everybody who reads this shit is an asshole, except for the ones who make me money.
So the thing I swear came out during the first movie is like, immediate response was everyone saying, well, he can't be the Joker because Bruce Wayne's a child in this movie.
Sure.
And the age disparity would be insane by the time he got old enough to become Batman, right? And so I swear that was, he's going to be beating a senior citizen to death.
For justice.
For justice. That was the understanding of the last movie. So this one, it didn't surprise me that he died we're jumping all the way to the end. We'll cut back, but I don't like that. That's the way it ends, because I don't like the implications therein, but I also feel like this is kind of, in this world that they've built, the only logical ending for this character, which is unfortunate, because again, that collides with what the politics of the first movie kind of are implying. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's hard to square the circles that are these two movies together, but to explain why I like them. But like, I went into this knowing it was a musical, knowing it was a bomb, knowing that it was like 32% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to not like this movie. Sure.
It has a lower cinema score, whatever.
We're going to talk about that.
It has a lower cinema score than Madam Web.
We're going to talk about it. But I kept waiting, and like, it starts off and it's we're gonna reel this back in just a minute, but like, it starts off and it's like, okay, this feels in line with the last movie in terms of the tone, the soundtrack, the performance.
If you like watching static shots of Joaquin Phoenix sit in a car while a radio plays in the background, then boy, do I have the movie for you.
It's definitely a step down from the last movie, but it does feel of a whole of that style.
I agree.
And then when the music kicked in, I was like, I don't like this. It's flat. It's boring. But, and I don't want to pat myself on the back too hard here, I think I may be able to, at least do a fraction of it, be able to kind of play David Sims in the Matrix Reloaded episode on Blank Check about this movie.
Okay.
And I might fail, but I think I got it. I think I figured out what the trick is to this movie. And maybe I'm wrong. Okay. Maybe you'll disagree. We'll figure it out. But I think ultimately, Todd Phillips, like I said, I think he saw how that movie was, received. It won the Palme d'Or. Joaquin got Best Actor. He got Best Actor. He was nominated for Best Picture. All this stuff that won Best Score. I think he saw that and then saw how people responded to Joaquin's character. And much like the movie, they didn't learn what the movie... It's people that watched The Matrix wrong. They just took the wrong lessons from it.
It's why Chuck Palahniuk did 2 Fight Club graphic novels about why why Tyler Durden's actually a punk bitch.
Yeah. And I my understanding from the research I did was making it a musical was Joaquin's idea.
Yes.
Or at least a suggestion. And that he was the one that wanted to do the sequel more than Todd Phillips, because they pitched it as one film.
I thought it would be interesting.
So I think that like their intent was, let's make sure this character cannot be redeemed. Let's make sure that we can't do another sequel. Let's make sure we put everyone who, again, all these insults, because it's easy to forget how that first movie was received. People were saying it was dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
There was security at screenings. People didn't want to go see it because they were worried something was going to happen, much like the quote unquote Joker shooter from Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
And I went on Reddit today and looked at the movie discussion thread on the /movie subreddit.
Oh.
Nothing but glowing praise for this movie.
Interesting.
And this was one of those ones that for whatever reason people just turned on like as time grew on.
Sure.
And I'm just at this point in my life where like I don't want to just jump on the bandwagon and say I hate this movie because everyone else does.
Oh, I do want to be clear. I didn't hate this movie.
Okay.
I just am very underwhelmed by it, and I wish
I think it doesn't go as far as it could go, is my point.
I don't think it goes as far as it could go. And honestly, if my biggest knock on this movie is that it is a musical with zero sauce. Like those musical
I think I got
numbers.
This.
Oh God, I don't. Okay.
I hear you though. I hear you because I felt the same way until I started thinking about it. I think I got it.
But I will say I don't know why. And I'm sorry, we're going for a new pre-trailer record here, but like I don't know why. So one of my favorite movie musicals of the last several years was The Last 5 Years, a movie that opens with a static shot of Anna Kendrick, just a close-up of her face while she sings a solo, and the camera moves around her face while she's crying. Yeah. And that is all that is happening.
Is that one of the Pitch Perfects?
No, it's called The Last 5 Years.
Sure.
She's exceptional, and I don't know why that feels more dynamic and interesting to me than the musical most of the musical numbers in this movie, which are a similar thing. Like if you just want to watch Joaquin Phoenix lean against a payphone and sing a song quietly and badly.
Yeah. But I think that again, we're jumping ahead. I think I can explain all this.
Please,
stuff, but
I'm so tempted just to hit this info start button.
Do it. Go ahead. Let's get into the info dump. Let's go. Let's go ahead. We're running long already.
No, and I am very curious because I'm here for alternate reads.
My goal is not to change anyone's mind, other than just to put things into perspective as far as I think that they are working here.
Well, but I get it. You're the mayor of movies.
I do. Got my little top hat, my monocle. I basically resemble the penguin.
Yes, let's get a little of this guy over here.
So,
for the listener, I am absolutely joking.
So Joker Folie was released this year, 2024. The director, as we mentioned, was Todd Phillips. The film stars Joaquin Phoenix, of course, returning as a Joker.
A Joker, baby.
The film stars Lady Gaga, Brendan Gleeson, Catherine Keener, Zazie Beetz, Steve Coogan, and Harry Lawtey. The budget of this movie was $190 million, and it only managed to gross $206 million worldwide.
Worth noting that both Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix.
Not yet, JT. Sorry, little pre-reel there.
You didn't get me. Okay,
hold on.
A little bit of pre-film slipped out. Worth noting in that budget that both Joaquin and Todd Phillips were paid $20 million reportedly. Lady Gaga was reportedly paid $12 million. And Todd Phillips refused to shoot the movie anywhere except for LA, which they could have saved 20% of the budget by moving to London.
Yep.
Which is very funny to me considering we mostly are inside a jail or a courthouse.
Yep. And this Gotham does not have any distinct features really to separate it from.
No.
Yeah. But anyways, and I wanted to mention this about the box office. In its second weekend, the movie had a historic record-breaking 81% drop.
Yeah.
And
delightful.
That's a record for any DC film. The third weekend, another 69% drop.
Hey, yo.
So not as bad, but it was bad. It's real bad, the box office return on this thing. It currently has a 32% on Rotten Tomatoes. And as you mentioned, Nathan, it has a D cinema score, which is the lowest of any comic book film ever, period.
Which, don't have to put too much... You don't have to put too much stock in cinema score because, people are silly. But it is interesting.
Well, I think it is the most honest of the review systems. You know what I mean? It is literally, for those who don't know, cinema scores mean it's the people that are there opening night. They review them coming out of the theater, said, is this what you were marketed at? Is this what you expected? Did you enjoy it?
Right.
So for people that are like, I saw the trailer, I wanted to come see it, I did not enjoy my time at the movies.
I thought my best friend, the Joker, was going to have a good time.
The opening weekend of this film, I should also note, no one could reach Todd Phillips because he secluded himself on his ranch and would not take phone calls.
He's like Connor for real in Pop Star.
I think it's kind of low-key Joker-esque of like, I'm gonna release this movie that I know everyone's gonna fucking hate, and then no one's gonna be able to talk to me about it.
And reportedly, this broke Lady Gaga's heart. You could see in the interviews that weekend after the premiere. It seemed that both she and Phoenix were surprised and underwhelmed by the final edit of the film.
Yeah.
You can tell that many of her scenes were dropped. She put out an album the week of the movie to promote the film where because she's singing as Lee in this movie, which means she's singing sort of off key and reedy.
Yeah.
So she re-recorded all the songs Gaga style for her Harley Quinn album, which is a lot of fun. And almost immediately, as soon as this movie comes out, starts getting bad reviews, she sort of retreats and starts ramping up the promo cycle for her next solo album. Like the word on the street is Lady Gaga wants to move on from this as quickly as possible because it has really bummed her out.
Well, unfortunately, she doesn't get to do much.
Right.
Her Harley Quinn is not as memorable as, say, Margot Robbie's or something like that. But I do think she does a fine job in the role.
I think she's fine.
Yeah.
I will say the first couple of scenes, I was like, oh, she's really good.
Yeah.
And then as it went on, I was just like, I don't know if it's her, if she's underserved by the screenplay or just the lack of connective tissue in her scenes. I mean, there's a lot of scenes where people are talking about the shit she's doing that we don't get to see.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing. I don't know. Yeah, I feel bad for her.
Sure.
I feel like especially for an actress who, when Gaga does a film, it's an event, right? Like she does it like every 4 years, more or less. Yeah. When she has time between albums. And
I liked House of Gucci. Sorry.
I do too. No, I have I really enjoyed House of Gucci. It is always very funny to me, though. Every time she does a movie, she gives these interviews where it sounds like she has invented acting.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
the Harry Styles interview style, as I like to call it.
It is. She does that thing. It's like that Ian McKellen episode of Extras where she's like, of course, I'm not a murder clown, so I imagined what it would be like to be Harley Quinn, and then I did that on the day, and I learned my lines.
But she's just underutilized is the worst part about it.
Absolutely.
And then for the awards, this movie won the 2024 Golden Lion, it was the Golden Lion nominee for Todd Phillips, and it was the winner of Best Soundtrack for Hildur Gernadottir.
Yeah.
I had to look it up. And that's it, JT. You can now roll.
That was the longest
projector.
That was the longest info dump.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's my fault. I keep monologuing.
And we're still not to the trailer.
Nope, but we're going to get there right now, right after I tell you what the drink of the film is. It's just cigarettes. Just get you some cigarettes.
Drink of the film is cigarettes.
Get some wet woods.
Yeah, it's just rain and cigarette ash.
Sopping wet cigarettes to light them up. Let's get to the trailer.
Some type of Suicide Squad.
This is Katana.
She's got my back.
Her hammer traps the souls of all she kills.
Ever since we saw this trailer in the theater, Ashley will just randomly say, "When I first saw Joker," like she just thinks about it. This trailer makes it look like he's in love with Pepe Le Pew.
Oh, machete.
That really tickled me.
Pepe Le Pew got canceled, didn't he?
He sure did.
Just like the Joker.
I was going to say Joker not canceled. He got a second movie.
Sure.
Pepe Le Pew cut out of Space Jam 2. Make it make sense, David Zaslav.
You're Joker. It's a good trailer.
It's so good. Not in the movie. Not in the movie.
Not in the movie. Crazy. And that was like the poster for the movie. The Judgment Day.
All right, a little louder, Mr. Phoenix. Like,
Ashley also pointed out something that I was trying to put my finger on about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's because things are taken so seriously and so dreadfully, but there's something about when they say the word Joker in this movie, it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Joker.
Like whenever someone says, yeah, when Joker did this, like, I don't know why it's funny to me every time.
Yeah, I guess let's reel it back in just a little bit. And for those who haven't seen it, I mean, we've kind of spoiled a lot of it, but let's kind of set up what the movie is. So the movie starts with this little animated sequence. We'll come back to this in just a minute.
Which I quite liked.
oh, I love it.
I got some thoughts on it, but we'll come back to it. So it starts with this little animated sequence. And then what we get into is Arthur is in Arkham Asylum. He is being kept there until his trial.
Yeah.
The implication is he's got this lawyer, and her... what am I trying to say? Her method of trying to get him off. Yeah. I was trying to think of the best way to say. Her defense for him.
Her defense is that Joker is a split personality that he was never aware of.
Yes. Joker is responsible for the kills, not Arthur Fleck.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so as he's going through this, he meets Lee, who is Lady Gaga. And she is basically the Manson girl to his Manson.
Sure.
And the trial goes on. He ultimately ends up realizing how his actions impacted the innocent and everything like that.
Sure.
And he just says, you know what? Fuck it. I did that as Arthur Fleck, not Joker.
Right.
And then he is murdered at the end of the movie, which we'll get to. But that is essentially what the movie is. And along the way, there is musical numbers, both fantastical and kind of in the real world-ish. But yeah, that's what the movie is. And I feel like this may be a situation where we're dealing with something where it's marketed differently than what the end product is, and people weren't happy with that.
Sure.
People thought they got tricked going in to see this and realizing it was a musical. Now, here's what I'm going to say right up front as we get into talking about this. I'm probably going to be called out for talking out of both sides of my mouth because I'm going to be like, I like it for this reason. And I'm sure I will say something later on in this episode that will negate that entirely.
Sure.
But again, that's the weird conundrum that I find myself in with this movie as someone who likes it. So just take that with a grain of salt.
Didn't both of you guys have stories like
Oh, yeah.
And Nathan, you had a road trip story.
But now we're 45 minutes into the episode.
Look, that's why I was trying to say let's y'all can put this wherever y'all want to.
Let's save it for the end.
Okay. I think my story will work as a wrap up to my feelings about this movie.
Great. Okay. So I guess we'll talk about this Warner Brothers cartoon at the beginning. It's stylized almost like a Looney Tunes gag, like at the beginning.
Sure.
I like the idea
Sing
of
hallelujah,
Yeah.
come on, be
I just don't think it
happy.
works for me. I think
Podcast
the
your
animation
cares
from that
away.
time is so specific.
This
Yes.
movie's
Like there's
really
little
classy.
things I noticed. I'm like, if you would have just did this, it would have helped it out 5% better.
Right.
And that's like when we get the little intro card, the Looney Tunes card, they would always dissolve into the title and then just fade to black and then fade up. And this doesn't really do that.
It also doesn't really mesh with the tone of the movie, the what we're supposed to learn about Arthur from this movie, how it doesn't fit how he views the evening of the Murray Franklin show.
It's the defense. It's the shadow, is the star. Joker is the star, not Arthur Fleck, right?
I would like to do a little shout out though, that because I discovered that the voice of the shadow is Nick Cave.
Oh my God.
Which kind of rules.
That's awesome. Man, Nick Cave already a through line in this season already.
Yeah.
And then, this movie starts, and I hope you like showtunes because it's wall-to-wall needle drops.
I mean, Brendan Gleeson just comes in singing, and the Saints Come Marching In plays so many times that you would think it was I had to look up to see if it was a callback to the first movie, and no, it's not.
Nope. That song and That's Life play between the two movies. I watched the first movie again today and I forgot it's in there as much as it is, and I was like, God damn, dude, Jesus Christ, he loves this song.
But the movie also seems to suggest from the top that like Arthur's always been a song and dance man, which I also don't particularly believe.
I was just thinking about that with the first movie being him trying to make people laugh and being a comedian, and now all of a sudden he is an entertainer. Like he wants.
Well, he realized he's a failed comedian, so now he's migrated to song and dance.
Well, that has to. I was trying to think if that's the metafictional reason, because this Joker doesn't really make jokes.
No,
like, there's no.
Well, that's the whole opening scene. They keep asking him, like, "Are you going to make a joke today?"
Which I love that. Yeah. I love the idea that like this guy has just been worn down, and Joaquin Phoenix is a good actor because he keeps doing that thing with his shoulders for no reason. Like, I forgot how much screen time in Joker 2019 is just shirtless Joaquin Phoenix moving his little chicken arms.
I will say, in defense of like suddenly he's a song and dance guy, he does do a little bit of dancing in that first movie, and even has that little that fantasy scenario where he's like, "Oh, you're such a good dancer, Arthur." He goes, "Thanks, I know."
Right?
Or is it Arthur Fleck is a comedian, but the Joker is a song and dance man?
maybe that's. I mean, Joker does come out on the Arthur Murray show doing a little spin and everything else. So,
and Joker dances on those stairs that are apparently famous now, even though he did that shit alone.
We'll talk about it. We got that. But I do think we're getting more great work from Hildur here, the composer.
Yes.
I think the score it's excellent, even if it is just a cello droning. Like it works for me. So we get Arthur. He's going to meet with his lawyer, and they're shaving him, they're letting him walk in the rain, and I do like the little bit of subtlety here with how Arthur perceives the world versus how it actually is.
Yes.
Because I didn't notice this until the second time I watched it, but when they're walking through the rain to go to the next building, they have all these black umbrellas.
Technicolor,
Well, they have black umbrellas, and then when he sees them and he looks up, he sees the Technicolor Singing in the Rain-esque umbrellas,
But he doesn't really see them because it's an overhead shot.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's not
Theoretically, you could probably see it from underneath, but I agree with your point.
Yeah. I love the idea, not the execution.
I audibly said nice shot.
Oh, yeah.
When the whole over the top, I was like, oh,
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, it's a nice shot. Todd Phillips knows how to get striking imagery.
Sure.
If nothing else, I would say between these two movies. And then this is where we get introduced to Lee, because she's singing in the choir in the other ward. And I do think it's funny that, like, if you notice, like, Gaga's mixed a little bit louder than everybody else, because of course she's gotta be. So we hear her.
Well, I took that as he picks her out from a crowd, like she breaks through to him, and that is such a musical theater conceit, and I love that moment.
It could be that, but it also could be, because what we find out at the end of this movie, it could be her trying to distinct herself, make herself distinct, so that he hears her.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I've got a whole lot of questions about her plan. But
there's a lot of questions about Lady Gaga.
But I do love that their meet cute is her imitating his most famous kill, like with a headshot.
Yep.
So these guards, obviously the one's an asshole.
Oh, the one from Pirates.
An adventure with science. A science and adventure with pirates. Yeah.
Well, and then you have the one who just seems, I don't know how to explain it.
Pirate with gout.
He seems nice, but also is a huge asshole. He gets him into the singing class, and he does give him cigarettes and stuff, even if it's at his expense, making fun of him maybe. But
so that's the thing between the two movies, is that from Arthur's perspective and the way Todd Phillips wants you to view this character, damn near everyone that he interacts with is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's he just keeps bumping into assholes.
Well, and Gleeson is one of those characters who, another fantastic performance as Jackie, the guard. His whole thing is that he's nice and fun and accommodating as long as you
stay in line.
See him as long as you see him as your god.
Okay, I can see that.
The best example of that is after Arthur speaks with Lee, and they, he's Brendan Gleeson gives him a cigarette, and they're walking back, and Arthur,
thanks, pal.
Yeah, as a pal, pats him on the back, and then Jackie smacks him in the back of the head.
Yeah,
that was so jarring. Yeah, that was so jarring. I was like, what happened here?
Really got me.
It's really upsetting, because you're like, oh, good, he's actually making his way in this crazy asylum, and then that happens, and I thought that was brilliant. I hope that was like an improvised move by Gleeson, like that wasn't in the script. You know what I mean?
Well, and I love the idea that, I mean, it's just the sort of casual abuse of people that runs through both of these movies, and the way that we look down on. I mean, especially, it really wasn't until after the 80s that we started to see people in mental institutions as worthy of help.
Yep. Not chaining autistic kids to radiators and stuff like that. Yeah. It was Reagan that shut down the asylums, right? Wasn't it Reagan that did that?
That I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up.
But I do like that they sort of extrapolate that into some comic book terms as well, because I really laughed at them saying like, well, we can't give him an umbrella.
Yeah.
We can't.
Well, because the penguins got
right. I know that the line means like, he might hurt himself and that's why he's all soaked. But in my head, I'm like, yeah, you absolutely can't give anyone in Gotham an umbrella.
I do have to know, when you go to Google, at least for me, when I typed in which president closed, the first result was mental institutions.
Oh, wow.
Reagan in 1981.
Well, and then you get this doctor who explains the concept of a split personality like he is a baby. Like both Dr. Beatty and Catherine Keener talk to him like he's simple.
2 questions I have.
Yeah.
Number 1, did you know Catherine Keener was in this movie before you saw it?
I did.
Okay, because she's left out of the marketing, but Steve Coogan, who is in one scene, got a hero shot in the trailer.
Right. Yeah.
I could not believe it. Of course, Catherine Keener, most famous recently for Get Out, I would think.
So great. Is in my double feature later on. Okay. Spoiler alert.
Right. And number 2 was going to be, do you think in this world, in this universe, that the movie Psycho was released? Because she's just doing the psychiatrist spiel at the end of that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like explaining, this is exactly what... She's doing the Norma Bates thing.
Well, I mean, I feel like it has to, because later in the movie, Zazie Beetz says that Arthur's mom said he wouldn't hurt a fly, and the crowd laughs.
That's true. Joaquin, if you count the cartoon at the beginning of this movie, doesn't speak for 13 minutes of the movie, which I thought was kind of weird.
Uh-huh.
And I know it's supposed to be the 70s and things were a lot more lax back then. They were a lot laxer, but why the cigarettes? Why are they... I mean, I know he smoked in the first movie, but he is smoking in goddamn every scene of this movie.
This movie would be 10 minutes shorter if you cut out how many times he takes a drag off a cigarette and then just sort of leans backwards.
For the listener, David and I both did it.
So I will say this first cigarette shot where he like abruptly asks and then like hurriedly grabs one, like in a rush to smoke it.
He wants it so bad.
Yeah.
I was taking that as like, okay, he hasn't had a cigarette in X amount of times. He can't smoke in prison, which then we later find out that that's absolutely not true.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, I get that. I like that little detail. And then it's just, he's just smoking nonstop. That's just...
If I may.
Yes, please.
Smoking is cool.
It's pretty cool.
Can I tell you, I was thinking about this last night. Smoking is really fucking cool. Like, because I was thinking about like making the Smoker 2 joke when we started this, and I'm like, but no, smoking is cool. In movies.
It's my favorite thing.
So cool.
And they've been talking about this recently on Blank Check, but like David Lynch gave that interview where he was like, yeah, I quit smoking when I was diagnosed with emphysema. And then the next 4 paragraphs are him being like, I would light up and it would fill my lungs and everything was right with the universe. I was just like, you're right. Smoking fucking rules, David. You're right.
And there's one thing you learn from this podcast is that we endorse smoking on any level, filtered, unfiltered.
I can't do it because of my asthma, but I respect it, and I will fight for your right to smoke.
I will say this: I'd much rather you smoke than vape. You fucking losers out there. JT, I know you're vaping right now, but you fucking loser.
Popcorn lung ass having motherfucker.
I quit smoking and 100% less cool now.
Oh yeah,
so less cool. Like I view you less cooler for sure.
Yeah,
no aura on this motherfucker.
Yeah.
The swagger list, I can't believe we let him on the show. Anyway.
Your vape, whack. Can't even blow rings.
Your fucking lungs taste like blueberries all the time now. Jesus. I know it's meant to be a prank on this kid, but I liked the kiss. I thought it was really good that it showed that Arthur is capable of empathy for those that he views as on his level. You know what I mean?
But it also shows he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like he will dance for them if they're going to give him a cigarette. He's going to stay in line. It proves that he's been a model prisoner, but it also proves that everyone else has a different idea of what that looks like.
True. But I also think that he does have this kind of connection with this kid throughout the movie, which I think his death later on in the movie is what is the turning point, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought it was a good little moment that he doesn't even hesitate. He walks right over to him and gives him a kiss.
And before we get too far, I want to mention that when the psychiatrist says, I remember you came out dressed as Joker, Ashley turned to me and she said, "This is going to be me on our wedding day."
Can I tell you, Nathan? I hope you noticed this, but Brendan Gleeson's ears, I think, are reaching Desmond Llewellyn era hands. Like, I think that's what we're getting to, because his ears are ginormous.
Do you remember those Ross Perot All That sketches?
Look at them things, man.
That's what he's got. Yeah, no, they're bear claws. Look
God.
at him.
He could hear a whisper from a mile away.
That's why he's not friends with Colin Farrell anymore in Banshees of Inisherin, is he could hear him talking shit
Non-stop, you can hear that, man.
He could hear Joaquin Phoenix singing in this movie.
He can.
And so, yeah, I mean, take a shot every time someone sings or the soundtrack plays When the Saints Come Marching In, because we hear it non-fucking stop.
Oh, I do love at the end of this montage, lights go out and he lights up another cigarette, which means that now something has shifted just slightly, where he's going to be a rule breaker now. And right before this, we get that great moment where Brendan Gleeson, he's smiling, and then his face changes when he says, "Do you still think you're a star, Arthur?" Because like he can't have this guy feel good about himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are the kind of subtleties that I could have used more of in this movie.
Speaking of subtleties, they say Arthur is from E Ward of this asylum. Do you think that E stands for eccentric? Because he is the Joker, baby.
He is the Joker, baby. Yeah. I saw something stupid.
Oh boy, wasn't just that what I just said?
No. What you said was good.
Oh, okay.
No, there was something. I saw a bit of IMDb trivia that was clearly added from someone who has no idea what they're talking about.
Was it Dr. Meridian Chase is called that because she's chasing Batman?
She's chasing Batman's Meridian. Mm-hmm. Oh man, I'll find.
If we start another band, Nathan, it's got to be called Chase Meridian.
Chase Meridian. Mm-hmm. I like that.
They're only chasing Meridian. We just cover Under Oath songs.
I can't find it now. There was something about the E ward.
Okay.
Oh, here it is. The low security prison ward where Arthur meets Harley is called B ward.
Oh boy.
This is a tribute to Burt Ward, who played Robin in 1966's Batman.
I
think it's a tribute to the alphabet.
You got to give it to him though.
Yeah, sure. You know what? Whatever. So they go into, he gets transferred over to this other ward where he gets to sing, right? With the choir.
And he doesn't.
Yeah. He meets Lee, who introduces herself to him, and then she starts singing a song. And if someone started singing at me, I think involuntarily I might start choking them because I wouldn't know what to do. Like, I would think I would put my hands around their throat and be like, stop doing what you're doing right now.
Sure.
I can't do this.
She's seen his TV movie 20 times and she loves that staircase.
I would love to see the TV movie. I think they said Todd had plans to do it, but ultimately couldn't do it.
Because I was gonna say that's what we were missing was like in the courtroom or something. They play a clip of the TV movie and it's like the stab scenes in Scream 2 where we got Luke Perry as the Joker or something.
And so I love that after. They have this moment where they're singing, and then we have the Brendan Gleeson, the head smack on the back of the head. Mm-hmm. We get introduced to Harry Lawtey, who is playing Harvey Dent. Now, I don't recognize this kid at all.
No.
I feel like this idea was hoisted upon Todd Phillips of like, if you're going to have a defense attorney, it's got to be Harvey Dent.
Right.
Because he doesn't seem to really care about this character at all. I feel like it's kind of underbaked, which is fine.
But there's a shot of him at the end of the movie with half his face blown off.
Yes.
And Todd Phillips has said in interviews that was intentional.
Yes, but I feel like, again, I think that's because they're like, well, it's Harvey Dent. We might as fucking well.
Yeah.
We got to blow his face off.
I will say, at the very least, they don't linger on that shot. It is a panning wide shot. It's not a close-up. So I did appreciate that they didn't make it fan servicey that much.
I am fascinated. This kid is I say kid. I mean, he looks like a baby.
Yeah.
He's 26. He's playing Richard Burton in an upcoming movie, which I can't imagine. Like Richard Burton was kind of like a burly guy.
I don't know. Maybe he's beefed up. I don't know.
Fascinating.
So I clocked it. It's 26 minutes before we get our first actual musical number in this.
Uh-huh.
And it sucks.
It's not good.
The song itself is like the least common denominator, I feel like, for a show tune.
Yeah.
And the filmmaking is boring.
The problem is a lot of the songs are good songs. Mm-hmm. They're Burt Bacharach songs. There's some genuine show tunes. But like you're saying, like the sequence is just when he started when he started singing and he sounded like this.
Well, that's what Years of Smoking will get for you.
And he's really quiet. Like, For Once in My Life is a good song. The problem is it's a static shot of a guy, or not static. That's not fair. But it like
it's a oneer.
Right. It's just super underwhelming because I had this moment where I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, this is what we're going to be hearing for this whole movie.
I did too the first time I watched it, and this is what I was talking about, where I may be able to explain this away. I may be able to.
Normally, it would drive me nuts that he, after exchanging 15 words with this person, is like, that's my soulmate. We're going to be together forever. But I buy it based on the fact that this is a character who's never felt love for 1 second of his life.
Yeah.
Like the only time we see Arthur feel any kind of remorse in the first movie, I feel like, is when he says to Gary, like, you were always nice to me.
Yeah.
And this movie, this is that version for this movie, is that Lee is the first person we've seen treat him as a person, and not a case, not a prisoner, not a number. Like, and it makes sense to me that he would immediately come to life.
Yeah, but then it makes the turn at the end all the more damaging to him. You know what I mean?
I do like this little spinning around he does.
Sure.
I would love it if the camera pulled back a little bit to let me see him moving. It's my biggest beef with so many Hollywood musicals right now. Like, the fact that Wicked is so full of choreography and it's such tight shots constantly drives me crazy.
So I think I can explain why a lot of these musical numbers feel flat.
Please.
I think the direction is that Todd Phillips is giving this movie. When Arthur is based in reality, the musical numbers are flat and have very little fanfare. Just like this first number where it literally just circles around the room and he comes back to where he started, and that's it. We don't cut away. It's a oneer. There's no real choreography. He does a little spin here and there, but that's it. And then as you notice, whenever Lee is in the number with him, like building a mountain, or when they do the Sonny and Cher spin, it does, like, it's much more lively. It's much more brighter. There is some choreography there. When they're dancing around the courtroom, when he's shooting the cameras and everything, it is filmed a little bit better. That's
least my favorite musical number in the movie.
The Sonny and Cher one and the courtroom one are my two favorites.
But the exception to that is That's Entertainment, which seems to not be real, and then is referenced in dialogue later where someone's like, yeah, you guys were singing to the reporters.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Like I said, I don't think it holds water entirely for every single number, but that's my interpretation of it. It's when they're in his head, like when he is clearly, like when he's in the cell,
they're more lush and they're more produced. Yeah. No, I buy that.
When he's in the cell at the trial and they do the Sonny and Cher bit, he's in the Joker makeup. When they do the moving the mountain part and she's playing the piano, he's in the Joker makeup. Like,
those are also the only times where his hair is green as well.
Yes.
He's like full Joker. Yeah. I also think, especially in Gonna Build a Mountain, that's the one track where Gaga has like full Gaga voice.
That's where she's playing the piano. She's got the spotlight on her. She is singing in her best voice. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I think the direction went. It's like, let's separate these two. My problem is they don't do enough of it.
Right.
When they do the flashier stuff, it should go even further. The best part to me, like visually, is when they talk about getting married and he is in the white suit and they do the big Hollywood musical.
Oh, I mean, it's La La Land. Like yeah.
When she's walking down the white piano roll looking path, like that's good.
That shot was an oasis in a desert. When we see that light up pathway, I was like, I needed 3 more of these to sort of separate from the realistic musical numbers. Like the sight of a old Hollywood, Oklahoma style, Xanadu style, even in some shots, like set, like, I don't know. I fully buy that read, but you're right. I think the movie should have done more to differentiate that take.
Like the second number here when they're at the movie screening, and they go out, they run outside. That should have been huge because they're not really escaping, as they say, but like it should have been they're playing up for the cameras that are on the other side of the fence, and like they're make use of this space. Right. They don't. They kind of just run and hide behind like a brick wall for a little bit, and they start singing.
And also, again, the musical gimmick, right,
Mm-hmm.
is the justification for having that in this movie being that he stood in a music class for a little bit.
It's a good point. I don't know. I don't know. I wish there was some kind of... I mean, he does watch a musical here, but he's already sung a song at this point.
Right.
So I don't know. I wish there was some better connective tissue here. But
I mean, didn't the teacher say something like, we use the music to kind of... I forgot the exact wording.
Yeah, bring people out of their shells. I mean, music therapy is very real.
I do have the quote. We use music to make us whole, to balance the conflicting forces, the fractures within ourselves, is what the music teacher says.
So do you think he might have like clung onto that and like isn't that like the performing thing started? Which I'm sorry, I'm distracted. No one saw this woman light an entire book of matches.
I know. I wrote down the security at this asylum is a sham.
This woman who's telling people I'm an arsonist, but thank you for the smokes.
Yeah.
I do love these like the moments between them here where she gets a little giggle out of him. Like I do think they have great chemistry when the movie stops long enough to give them a scene together.
Yeah. I do want to point out, too, I noticed it the second time during that first musical number where he's dancing around the room with the guys.
Yeah.
We do get our first look at a very suspicious smiling inmate that will pay off later that he is there. So it is unfortunate to me that neither of these movies really get a firm grip on what would make the story interesting, because Arthur isn't that far off from Michael Douglas's character in Falling Down. But it's wrapped in this layer of a poor representation of someone with a mental illness, right?
Right.
And I think there's stuff here that would really make these two movies like a good double feature, because at the end of that first one, he has been like glorified, put on a pedestal, almost literally. And you remember the end of that movie, there's a little bit of a musical kind of little dance number.
Oh yeah, the end of that movie when he kills that therapist who's never mentioned in this movie.
Yeah.
So I guess that wasn't real, maybe. But the end of that movie has a vibe of, look at that scamp go.
Yeah.
He's going to be doing this forever.
Maybe that's the impetus for the musical stuff of this, because that movie does end in like a fairy tale kind of length.
It's the that's life bit, right?
It is.
Isn't that? Yeah.
It is. And then he's even doing like the little Looney Tunes, like running from one side of the hallway to the other. Yeah, exactly. But I feel like I like the idea of someone being so beaten down by like the nihilism and the absurdity of, I'm going to say it, society, that they spiral downward into just absolute madness. Like, that's a good idea, but there's something that doesn't click with the mental illness aspect of it, which is what they keep hindering on that in the first movie. He's mentally ill. He doesn't get the services he needs, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And in this movie, he comes to the term at the end. He goes, no, none of that was because I was mentally ill. It's because I chose to do it. Right?
Yeah, which I also think is dangerous.
Yes.
Like, I don't think that's... I think it is both a... It's both a rebuttal, but also a fundamental misunderstanding of what they were trying to do with the first one, which is wild because it's the same creatives.
And it's the antithesis of the mission statement of that first movie. It's literally written down on a notebook that says the thing about mental illness is that when you have it, people expect you to behave like you don't.
It's my favorite line in the first movie because it's the part that it's the moment that I felt like that movie had something to say.
It perfectly surmises exactly what that first movie is about. Yeah. And also it's literally written down. The camera lingers on it, so you cannot miss it.
Right.
And then this movie kind of undermines that. I like that at the end, he takes responsibility, says there was no Joker, it was just me.
Right.
But we're still playing up the entire rest of the movie as him being like, nope, I'm mentally ill.
But it's, equating mental illness with evil is, I think, a very slippery slope. And it's not one that this movie is all about, but then doesn't fully interrogate. It all feels very surface level, which is wild for a movie that is over 2 hours.
And that's what I'm saying. I like both of these movies. I just don't think they make a lot of, like, they don't fully get to the concept that they're trying to portray. Like, they kind of constantly battle with what message they're trying to say in both of them.
Right.
But I don't know. And maybe I'll look back in 2 years and be like, oh, I fucking hate this movie. But I went back and watched Joker 1 today and liked it.
Right.
And maybe there's just too much time because there's 5 years apart from these movies that is, unfortunately, the way movie criticism works nowadays and fandoms work nowadays. That is enough time for people to then turn on completely your movie.
Oh, I mean, you guys saw what happened with The Substance, right? Like, that movie was beloved, and then a week a week after it's available on streaming, everyone's like, actually, this movie's dangerous and shitty.
Yeah.
You should hate yourself if you like it.
I'm surprised people haven't turned. I mean, people already did turn on Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like,
I
when
know.
It won. Yeah, but like, I'm surprised like Parasite hasn't gotten that treatment yet or anything like that.
It has from some people.
Oh God.
Yeah.
God damn it. It's just, that's why I don't want to be a part of that at all. That's why I'm like, I like this movie.
That's
Is
fine.
it perfect? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a masterpiece. It's not as good as the first one. And I still like the first one. Politics be damned.
I feel like these are y'all's closing arguments, if you will.
I rest my case.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's just turn it off. I don't give a shit. No, we're 40 minutes in. We get the La La Land sequence, which I should also throw out. I'm not a big La La Land guy.
It's one of the few musicals I like, but I also fully get at why people that like musicals don't like it.
Right.
So.
I have a very short litmus test for, what's the word I'm looking for? My tolerance for movies about the movies and the city
Sure.
are you know, I'm very picky.
Yeah.
But the production design here is spectacular.
Yes.
I love Arthur laughing in solitary until he's hacking.
Yep.
And, you know, I try not to, when I watch movies, I try not to let the real world seep in too much unless it's directly, you know, commenting on something that's happening.
Yeah.
But it sucks when I'm watching this scene and I'm thinking there are couples out there watching this scene and being like, it us.
Yeah.
Which is like the problem with the whole Harley Joker thing of people just not getting it.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say at least this movie plays a little bit better with the relationship between the two. He's not like gaslighting her the whole time. And
it's an inverse of the classic Harley Joker romance, which I think is very interesting.
a gender swap almost.
Yeah.
So this part's confusing, where he's in solitary confinement and she just shows up. Well, it was confusing as far as at this point, I haven't seen her interact with anybody else but Joker, so that's why I was like, they're not going to do this whole all in his head type thing, are they?
Yeah.
And then this scene was all like, okay, maybe they are.
I think some of it is in his head. Like
Some of it is, but she does exist.
Yes.
Because it wasn't until she interacted with his lawyer is when I was like, she's a person.
Yep.
She's, yeah, okay.
But the question is, if this is in his head, what is his self-esteem like?
Yeah,
Because
I wasn't going to go there.
Oh, you want to? No. Hold on. We got to talk about this section. We can't just skip past it.
my note here is, I'm watching the Joker fuck sadly.
I'm going to let the actual host talk about this. I have no.
Thank you, JT. But let me describe this because some people haven't seen this movie. They're just going to listen to this.
Right.
So there is a scene here where Arthur is in solitary confinement because he tried to quote unquote escape after that last musical number. Lee comes to visit him and he says, "Are you really here?" She goes, "Yes." He goes, "How?" She says, "I'm friends with the guard. They let me in."
Right.
She tells them, "They're letting me out because you're a bad influence on me."
Right.
You know, like most asylum patients. If they're a bad influence on other people, those people get to leave.
You just get to go home.
Mm-hmm. And then they start to have a sex scene. And let me describe what happens here. So first he gets aroused. And then she tells him to stop taking his antipsychotics, which can cause erectile dysfunction. Yes. And he says, "I already have."
Yeah.
He asks, "Can you help me put it in?" And then, and then wait. And then they actually do the act.
This sound effect's longer than
I was about to say that.
And then he finishes. And then they that's what happens. I stayed up all night building that up.
Dustin texted me. He's like, "Dude, I have a bit. Don't tell Nathan about it." I was like, "Okay."
It's really funny to me.
Was that Tom? Was it Tom from Tom and
I don't
Jerry
know.
hollering it? Can I hear that again?
Yeah,
Can I
of
hear the
course.
act again?
That's a different take on it, but yeah, that's it.
Can we? This is my job.
Oh, okay, please.
Like,
go ahead, take over.
like-
Do you have the goofy scream on the soundboard?
Not here.
we haven't got to Disney. I haven't gotten up to Disney yet.
Yeah, what are you looking for? I'll help you find it.
It was this one.
That's my erection, right?
No, let's let the sounds tell the story.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. So goddamn funny to me.
Oh man! If you can't handle me at my point, you don't deserve me at my
I hope that bit was worth it.
It was.
Okay.
It was.
It took hours. I also feel because we're talking about this.
Yeah.
Much like the politics stuff, this movie doesn't commit to a lot of things.
Right.
Like, is Lee actually here in Arthur's cell with him or not?
Right.
Is he imagining it? Does he really impregnate her, as they say later on, or is that fiction?
When he mentions to her later in the movie, we're going to have a baby, she doesn't even react to it.
Nope. And then, like, does she blow her brains out at the end of this movie?
Oh, right,
leaving
sure.
the voicemail, or does he really see her on the stairs? Like, there's a lot of things that doesn't commit to it. I'm fine with some ambiguity.
Right.
But when the entire character's, like, motivation seems to be predicated on, is this character really there? Did this really happen? I don't know.
It's so slapdash because we're also told that she checked herself into the asylum specifically to meet him. And if everyone knew that, then why the fuck was he brought to the music class with her?
I don't know. And
or
it's
is
like,
that another lie from Catherine Keener to try to keep him on? Yeah, it just makes no sense.
if you remember that first movie, a lot of stuff there too is this person said this truth, and then this person says they're lying, and then it turns out no, this person said the truth too. They do the same thing with this movie, and they also do the, like, did he really have a relationship with Lee or not?
Right.
As they did with Zazie Beetz in the first movie. Like,
Right.
Which I think is the only reason why they have scenes where we prove that she is really there, so they don't redo what they did.
Well, we're told that within a day she's already given a ton of interviews.
Yeah.
Like she's on the front page of the Gotham Gazette.
Yeah, I don't know. But like, the movie up to this point is just a bunch of people just poking and prodding a mentally ill man, which is what the first movie is.
And I don't know if you guys felt this way, but I had a feeling like everyone in this movie talks the same. Like everyone who's not Arthur or Lee, like multiple times in this movie, we have characters use phrasing like, we're gonna fry your ass.
Yeah.
And then everyone describes what happened to Murray Franklin as you blew his brains out, including Patty. Like when he's being interviewed by Steve Coogan, it's just like, yeah, he blew his brains out. I was like, why would you wouldn't phrase it that way?
That's what I mean. Everyone's antagonistic against this mentally ill man.
Right.
Also, my belief is that if you're born with the name Harley Quinzel, you're legally obligated to become a Harlequin. Like I don't make the rules. That's just what it is. So yeah, he goes and does this interview with Steve Coogan, and he does poke and prod this guy. And
calls him low IQ.
Says he's Joker, even though he apparently agreed with Catherine Keener not to do that. And then he keeps poking at him. And then Arthur starts singing about Lee, and the way as soon as he starts singing, the way Steve Coogan looks at the cameraman is exactly how I would look at someone else if someone started singing to me. I'd be like, what the fuck is going on?
We got this shit on camera. Are you filming this? Before that, I will say I think Phoenix, when he starts to break and he's like, you don't care about me, you just want to talk about my mistakes, not who I am now. Like that whole bit is really strong.
Yeah.
And I love I love when Steve Coogan says, so what's changed about you?
Yeah.
And Joaquin Phoenix repeats, what?
Yeah, he does.
So that is really, really nice.
Yeah, he sure does. I noticed that too. Now, this whole thing is weird because it's like, again, everyone knows he's guilty, but they're still like putting him on trial. I mean, they're still being like, well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's the Joker did it, or maybe Arthur fucked it. Who knows?
Maybe it was the Joker, baby.
Yeah.
Well, and also like if Lee is just performing and isn't, a criminal or a real inmate, then what's with this bit where she's like smashing a window and stealing a television? The thing that's so confusing about this movie to me is I don't know what the people who are rooting for Joker want him to do. Do they want him to not get... If he takes responsibility for what he did, then he stays in prison or he gets the death penalty.
Yeah.
If he doesn't take responsibility, they get mad at him for rejecting the Joker.
Yeah.
Like he can't win, which is an interesting thing for him as a character. But as an audience member, I have no fucking clue what Lee or these Joker fanboys want.
Yeah, and I also don't understand. Like Lee says later on, she goes, I bought your old apartment. Like I'm now living there.
Sure.
So when you get out, we'll have a life together with our baby.
I got a home for us.
Yeah, and he goes, I don't want to live there, which makes sense. Like let's follow the logic here. Okay, so he goes to trial. Some miracle happens and he gets off.
Right.
He's not found guilty. He's still going to go to an insane asylum because he's still is legally mentally ill and killed 6 people by his own admission. They're not just going to let him walk the street.
Right.
So in her fantasy, if they were to run off together, it wouldn't be in that apartment.
Right.
You would go on the lam or something. It would be Badlands.
It does feel like a disjointed, like that's my thing, is I can't track what she expects to happen from scene to scene. But I also do like the idea that very much like one of those people who's like, I own some of John Wayne Gacy's clown costumes, and they're,
you mean like Jonathan Davies from Korn?
Right. Yes. Like I like the idea that she would be like, I rented the Joker's apartment so I can be close to him.
I don't know. It just felt like maybe that's the point, is that it doesn't have logic,
right.
That like she's just acting on a whim, which seems to be the entire precedence of like what she's doing anyway when we find out. But
we are just now getting to the courtroom, and I feel like at the hour mark, the plot is at the hour mark. By the way, I think I have a better Joker laugh than Joaquin Phoenix. We're an hour in, and the plot is, boy, that Joker guy did that stuff last time.
See, I'm in the minority because I love the courtroom drama aspect of it. I wish the whole movie was the courtroom drama.
No, I know. They should have gotten here sooner, because the whole movie up to this point is, hey, you remember the Joker? He's going to go to trial.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I wish like we would have started with that. And then maybe you do flashbacks to establish the relationship between him and Lee. I don't know. But like, he comes out to the courtroom and he does a little Richard Nixon peace signs, which I thought was a good touch.
I also love that he sits down right before the bailiff says all rise, and he looks annoyed that he has to get back up for Judge Martin Scorsese to come in.
It would be so fucking funny if it was like Judge M.S. or whatever, you know what I mean?
He clearly has Judge Multiple Sclerosis. He clearly, this guy is clearly made up to look like, he was cast to look like Martin Scorsese, right?
Probably. It's a really funny tongue-in-cheek, motif if that's the case. But like, they start interviewing. Harvey Dent starts interviewing this doctor, and I do think the smoking gun of this whole trial is when he says, "I believe he fakes his mental illness." I'm like, boy, that is perfectly in line with the last movie. That's what this should be about, if anything. And I know it's offensive, but the joke. Did you notice the joke that he wrote on his legal pad that Arthur wrote on it? Because he gave him a legal pad to write notes on. Did you see the joke that he wrote?
I think I missed it.
The only thing he wrote during this entire cross-examination of this doctor is he wrote Chinese or Japanese. That's all he wrote.
Oh my God.
That's wild.
I gotta pull it up. Hold on. I didn't notice it the first time. I had to pause it the second time and go back and look, because I was like, he wrote something. I got to see what it says. And I saw that. I was like, oh my God.
I was jotting down so many notes, because this is another one of the most egregious musical numbers in the movie. Like, the trial starts, which is ostensibly what the movie is about, and we immediately cut outside to Lady Gaga so she can stand still and smoke a cigarette and sing a song we've heard already. And that is, if that is not this movie in a microcosm, then I don't know what is.
So also at this point in the movie, though, when he gets annoyed that he has to stand back up, him obviously getting distracted, and kind of, is it kind of like to show like he doesn't realize what's going on? Like, he knows he's going on trial, but he doesn't know how court proceedings work. He doesn't know anything he writes Chinese or Japanese.
I think at this point his Joker persona is kind of taken over now that he's connected with Lee. And so he's like, that's why he does the yawning motion when the doctor's listing off, the different aspects of his abuse and everything. I think
he's trying to bury his pain too. I mean, like, there's a great bit where, and I see it now on the legal pad. I noticed the main thing. Can you get Lee a better seat tomorrow? I did not notice the top note, which is buck wild.
No, me neither.
And it's also misspelled. He put Z's in there.
It's Japanese lowercase as well. Yep. Arthur, like, when Catherine Keener is discussing the abuse that he suffered, he like flinches. Like, there's a bit where he sort of tenses up, and then he just starts drawing and dissociating during the discussion because he does not want to confront this.
I think one of the stronger aspects of this character and Joaquin's performance is that the naivety is so real. Like, it's so sad to watch, because he really does kind of have a child's mind when he is in control and it's not the Joker persona, right? And the movie kind of plays with that fact that Arthur can't really trust anyone. Right. And so that makes all the more sense of why he would latch on to Lee and believe everything that he's telling him.
Right.
Much more so than just it's a attractive woman, and he hasn't had he had a fantasy about that the entire last movie with Zazie Beetz, but
Right.
like, why wouldn't he believe all this stuff? Which is why he goes to bat for her so much, and it makes the end all the more crushing. But I feel like we don't need that because that's all we've had is Arthur getting crushed. And I think the only reason that happens is because Todd Phillips wants to stick it to the incels that like the last movie. He's like, no, you don't even get this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's such a good shot, but I would love to know what the guy, you remember the guy that made such a big deal about the Harley drawing the lipstick on the mirror, and then I want to know what that guy thinks about the movie now that he's seen it.
That streamer who was like, "What is that? Like the director's idea? What would you call that?"
I want to know what he thinks about the movie if he's seen it now. Like, I want to know how he feels about it now. But we get this great Sonny and Cher moment, and also a bit of foreshadowing with what is going to happen with this relationship, because Lee starts pandering to the crowd and not to Arthur himself, and then shoots him.
Yeah, he makes a joke about, he's like, "You're making it all about yourself."
Yep.
And it's pathetic. Like, it's not funny.
No. This is the shadow from the beginning of the movie as well.
Yeah.
Like, this is it playing right back into it.
Absolutely. And I didn't expect a Bee Gees song in this movie, but I was very excited about it.
I loved it. I thought this was a great little bit. I think the stage looks great. I think everything about this is awesome.
Absolutely.
I'm honestly kind of surprised, because now we get into where they start cross-examining witnesses from the last movie, that Zazie Beetz returned for this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie made $1 billion, so why wouldn't you? But I also feel like it also puts an end to that debate of everyone being like, did he kill her at the end of that movie or did he not? Like,
right. Well, it's one of the interesting. Another beef I have with this movie is that there's a lot of really interesting ambiguity in the first film that is then stripped in this one.
But only to then be layered on top of with more ambiguity when it comes to Harley Quinn. So.
Right, exactly. And I kind of liked that Sophie was a question mark at the end of the first movie.
Yeah.
I get that if you're going to do this sequel, then you have to address it.
But you could even do that in dialogue. The fact that she actually showed up, I thought was...
And also, she's great.
Yes.
Like, it's a great scene.
Yeah. And then also he leads credence when the next witness of his crimes comes in later on as well. But we'll talk about it in a second. But
right.
I don't know much about murder trials. Admittedly, I'm not a true crime guy.
Interesting.
Especially where the defendant is a clearly mentally disturbed individual that has a history of abuse as a child.
Right.
But I don't think a judge worth his weight in salt would tolerate a crowd laughing at a witness detailing how that person's mother mocked the very idea of her child bringing happiness to the world.
It's wild.
When she goes, oh, well, his mom said she made up this story about he was put on this earth to make people laugh, and she couldn't believe he based his whole entire life around that. Like, it's almost like if you took an extreme version of Ricky Bobby and like, oh, I was high when I said that. Like, if you're first, you're last, you could be second, you could be third. Oh, man.
I'm embarrassed. I really thought I was the Joker.
Oh, man. I kind of love Joker walking around this courtroom just beating the shit out of Harvey Dent and the judge. This musical number.
This is my favorite musical number.
The judge one?
Yes.
The biggest laugh I had in this entire movie
is
when Lady Gaga lights a cigarette, takes a huge puff, and then says, "I'm pregnant."
Yeah. She sure does. Man. And then this is where he fires his lawyer.
Yes.
And Catherine Keener's like, we could have won if we would have just stuck to this idea that he's two separate personalities.
You fucked it up.
Yeah, because Lee keeps pressuring her. She's like,
didn't someone in the crowd say finally?
Yes, yeah.
After he's like,
finally, Jesus.
It's about time.
But then, after he fires his judge, he goes back into his cell, in the back of the courtroom.
Yeah.
And there is no way that they let Lee back there to see him.
No.
Right?
No.
There's no way that happens.
And the guy literally opens the bars and is like, this way.
But then he tells him, no touching.
No touching.
You let her back?
She says, like, this is amazing. You're going to be great. And then he says, yeah, maybe I should read a law book or something, which is like one of his best jokes.
Pretty good bit. But again, I don't know much about the legal system.
Mm-hmm.
And they try to dance around it with this line, but I don't think any reputable judge would let Arthur not only represent himself as a certifiable mentally insane asylum patient.
Right.
But also wear the fucking face paint.
I know.
Like, that's insane.
We're gonna make sure he's comfortable.
Yeah, we gotta make sure John Wayne Gacy on trial, when he represents himself, come in with the clown outfit on. We have to let that happen.
Right, and hold his his security blanket knife.
Oh my god. It's a wild move. I mean, they got to get him in the makeup at some point. I get it.
Sure.
And it's funny that like that's the explanation of like, well, there's nothing in. It's like Air Bud. There's nothing in the rule book that says you can't.
Did you see how cold they were kissing and smoking at the same time?
So cool.
Oh, I mean, this is the best. She goes, "You can do anything you want. You're Joker." And to prove it, he smokes a cigarette and bends over backwards again.
Yep.
And we don't see
cool.
the discussion with the judge
so
where the
cool.
judge it's fucking cool. We don't see the discussion with the judge where the judge is like, "Yeah, I'll let you do this. We're gonna make this work." We see him just sit in the back of a cab and listen to the news on the radio for like 5 minutes.
Yep. That's how they get a lot of exposition across. Yeah.
It's not a cinematic way of doing anything.
No. But this is, for me, for my money, the best scene of the movie, where they bring in Lee Gill, who plays Gary from the first movie.
Gary Puddles.
This shit is... I lost my mind the first time I watched this movie, dude. When he breaks out the Foghorn Leghorn accent.
Oh, boy.
I loved it.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I don't care. I'll stand up for this. I fucking love... Because it is the first time that Joker has to represent himself. And the idea that he would go straight to Southern Lawyer is so fucking funny to me.
It also proves that this Joker is a hack.
Yes. That's why I like it. Like, of course he would go to Southern Lawyer. That's the first thing I would do if I had to, like, put on a performance.
But for the whole scene, it's like, it's not.
But he
like,
breaks. The best part is he breaks when he's like, "Gary Puddles, you expect us to believe your own God-given name?" And then he's like, "Really? Your name is Gary Puddles?"
The only thing about it that works for I think it goes a little too long, but I do like the fact that when Gary hurts his feelings, that's when he breaks the bit. And I do think that is worth it.
Yeah.
If Gary was called to the stand just one day before, it wouldn't be so traumatizing for him because he would have saw Arthur and not the Joker.
Right.
Not Joker. Sorry, not the Joker.
A Joker, please.
No, yeah, a Joker.
Mr. Joker's his father.
And he wouldn't have been cross-examined by Joker. It would have been his
Catherine
lawyer.
Keener, yeah.
But also, again, what is his case now?
He doesn't have a case. That's the whole point. He uses it as a soapbox.
Okay.
That's the whole point. Is he gets up there and he's like, because the whole time he's interviewing, he goes, "I won't let you or those fucking fat, stupid guards at Arkham put me down."
Right.
He's not using it as a way. He doesn't plan on getting off on this case. His case is not to prove that he is innocent.
He's already got off in solitary confinement.
Hey, hold on.
Oh, whatever the fucking sound effect is. The line that made me have to pause the movie because I was hacking up a lung laughing was, "You were tugging at my heartstrings, little Gary."
God. You expect us to... I love how it goes on just a little too long. You expect us to believe your name is Gary Puddles?
Your God-given name is...
I loved it. And what works for me is Gary doesn't see it as a joke at all. Joker's the only one in the courtroom that sees this as a joke. Because even the lawyer's like, the judge is like, you got to keep moving on.
Yeah.
But like, when he tells him, he's like, I said I wasn't going to hurt you and I didn't. And he goes, "You didn't hurt me. I can't go to sleep at night.
Yes.
I'm always terrified." It's the best performance of the movie to me.
You were the only... He's like, "Do you know how awful it is that the person that I trusted did this?"
Yes.
He's like, "You were always nice to me, and then I watched you stab a man to death in front of me."
Yes.
Because, I mean, when Gary leaves that apartment in the first movie, he's drenched in blood. Like, it is a... You know that even though that guy survived, his life has been ruined.
Well, he can't even leave. He has to have Arthur open the door for him.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah.
No, that's one of the best scenes in the movie too. It shifts into almost a slasher.
Yeah.
For like 5 minutes.
Well, he tells him too. He goes, "You didn't watch me on Arthur Murray?" He goes, "No, I didn't." He goes, "I'll remind you, you're under oath," because he thinks everybody saw him on the show. And he goes, "No, I was in a jail cell because the cops had to put me there for my protection because they thought you were going to come back for me."
Right.
And the line that crushed me the hardest is he says, "Do you understand what it felt like that day?" He goes, "I felt so small. I was reminded how powerless I am." And that line is what gets through to Arthur, because that's when you hear him choke up and says, "No further questions. I said no further questions, Your Honor." And he goes, yeah, he says, "You were the only one at work who was nice to me and didn't make fun of me." And I feel like this is the beginning of the end for the Joker persona. This is the crack that will rip open this entire thing.
Well, because ostensibly he became the Joker because he felt powerless. Like that was his way of taking power.
Yes, that was like Batman putting on the suit. Like,
and I think when he realizes that all he's doing is perpetuating the cycle of violence, it breaks him.
Yeah,
and I do find that to be a compelling idea. He does fuck up his Porky Pig impression.
A little bit. Yeah, he can't get the stutter just right.
But everyone cheers because fans of the Joker are dumb.
Yeah, yep. They sure fucking are. And also, not to put a 5 point on it, a Joker. I just want to, just for legal purposes.
A Joker, please.
A Joker ado.
A Joker ado.
A Joker ado keeps the doctor a boo. Wait, what?
A boo?
Yeah. I'm sleepy.
But also, he calls out the Arkham guards and says they treat me like trash. They're fat and stupid.
I hated that Pirates animated movie that Jackie was in.
But they have this "Gonna Build a Mountain," which goes on too long.
The song goes on way too
long.
I will say we glossed over it, but earlier when Lee confronts the reporters and they're like, "What do you expect to build a life with them? What are you gonna do?" And she goes, "We're gonna build a mountain." And they're just like, "What are you fucking talking about?" It's really funny.
Can I go ahead and tell you my bit part?
Oh, yeah, because it's mine.
That one reporter goes, "What does that mean?"
It's fine.
It's really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get Gaga playing the piano in the song and everything. He does a tap dancing number, which is pretty good. And then, he goes back to Arkham, and these guards have the thinnest skin imaginable, because all he did was call them fat and stupid. Didn't call them out by name. He just said the guards at Arkham. Mm-hmm. And their response is to beat and sexually assault him.
Okay, I wasn't the only one who thought that's what happened there, right?
So the first time I saw this movie, I didn't catch that was what the implication was.
Right.
But it's obvious on the second time, because they say...
Oh, I didn't catch that either.
They tell one of the guards to strip his clothes off, get him naked or whatever, and it's implied that's what happened.
Well, and then we hold on Arthur's face while he listens to them murder another inmate.
Yeah.
Which is awful.
Yeah, that being the final straw for him of like, I am just continuing. He's using the Joker as an excuse to act out on his worst instincts, right? That's what the...
Well, see, I thought, again, unless if I can see something different with subtitles here, I knew they said get those rags off, but I figured that's because they're changing him out of his suit into his prison stuff.
Well, no, because he's practically naked. He's in his underwear pretty much right here when they throw him to the ground behind the wall so you can't see him.
Yeah.
And then they say, get his rags off or whatever.
I do want to mention a couple of things right before this. I do love the bit that during the fantasy wedding, Lee does not say "I do."
Yeah.
I think the tap dance is great.
It's pretty good.
And I love when they're pulling Arthur down the hall and they think that the guard's like, "I think we knocked him out," and Arthur just kind of slaps him in the face.
Yeah.
Really good. But yeah, this is heartbreaking because he is fully broken at this point.
This is like, Shawshank or Green Mile level. Like when they kill Ricky, it's tough.
And this is followed by Lee, I think, is the weakest musical number in the movie, which is just her putting on her makeup and really quietly singing. And it just feels like that some of these numbers really drag the pace down.
See, I don't even have any notes until the explosion, honestly, up to this point. But we're about to get there. But yeah, she gets ready. She dons her Harlequin outfit finally. And notably... from here on out, Joker is not in his traditional garbs. He's in a much more muted brown palette. But
right.
Even though his intention is to come out here, and he even says, my intention was to come out here and have a rant about you people,
right.
but there is no Joker. I killed 6 people. You only know about 5. I also murdered my mother.
Right.
And he says, I can't do this anymore. And this is... I feel like the thesis statement for this film, which is there is no Joker in terms of like a ideology as an icon. It is just a guy acting out on his worst instincts and using this as an excuse to do so.
Which I do agree with. Like I agree with the idea that like you have made this guy a martyr, but all he was he killed Murray out of petty revenge.
He was going to kill himself.
Yeah.
It should be remembered. He was going to blow his brains out. And I think impetus for when he decided to shoot Murray was when
Murray started making fun of him.
Well, he started to make his last joke, and
Yeah.
his joke was going to be knock, knock, who's there? Bang.
Yeah.
And then Murray interrupts him and says, you had to look that up to remember it? And then you see a switch happen in Arthur in that moment.
Yes.
And that's when he decides to, I think.
And I think it's important that he comes up here and tells his audience, his followers, like, no, I didn't have a grand plan.
Yeah.
I was looking to make a scene.
Yeah.
Like I was going to kill myself. I did all of this because I'm broken, not because I'm a hero.
It's a repetition of a couple of lines of the first movie where he says, all I have are negative thoughts. I haven't been happy a day in my life.
Yeah.
All these other things. And then like, yeah, he gets up there and he says, he even says a lot of the times in the first movie, even on the Murray show, he says, I don't have a plan.
Right.
I'm not political. I'm not wearing the clown makeup just because everyone else is wearing clown makeup. That's just, I'm a clown.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
But I agree with your earlier point, though, that this movie seems to abandon the idea that like he should be taken care of as someone who is unwell. This could have been avoided if he had gotten the help and the love that he needed, possibly. Like because he doesn't strike me as an evil character.
No, and it would have been so much more interesting because this takes place a couple of years after the first movie. Because that first movie, you forget they're talking about, there's a trash strike that they're not picking up the trash.
There's super rats. Right.
They're cutting the fundings. Earth is shitty, or at least the city is shitty then.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason Thomas Wayne runs for mayor in that first movie. If in this movie, after the events of that, of what happened with the police getting beat on the subway, Shea Wiggum and the other guy, after Murray getting shot point blank in the face on TV, if things had changed at least slightly, like you're just rehashing the guards being shitty and evil to him, and him having this fantasy relationship with this woman that does not reciprocate it in the same way that he thinks. Like you're just rehashing that. If you would have made it like, no, things are getting better. He is getting the help he needs, but because he enjoyed that fanfare he got at the end of that movie, and he still is a mentally ill person. If you show that even when things are doing better for him, that he's still mentally ill, that would fall in line with the first movie's mission statement of the thing about mental illness is people want you to behave like you don't, like you don't have it. Like I think that would have been the smarter way to do this, but I think Todd Phillips is so dead set on killing this character and making him embarrassing and making him pathetic, right? So that these incel douchebags that like the first movie a little too much get their comeuppance about it. Like, joke's on him, they didn't go fucking see the movie.
Right. And I do think that this movie is so reactionary to the first movie and to the first movie's following that it fundamentally fumbles what the first movie was trying to say. Even though I also have problems with how the first movie delivered its message as well. I don't know. It's a difficult double act for sure.
Yeah, it's a tightrope that he is walking here, and he's not doing too well. But Arthur says the judge came back in less than an hour with a verdict. He gets found guilty. He calls Lee and leaves this voicemail where he's singing how much he loves her. She puts a gun to her head. Most importantly, we don't see what happens there.
Right.
He goes back in to the court. He's found guilty, and he starts laughing because, of course, remember, he's got a condition. One of the parents of the guys that he killed on the subway in the last movie starts beating the shit out of him.
And it's worth noting that like he was being found guilty for each thing.
Yes. Each individual murder was.
We don't get through all of the charges, but it sure seems like he's not getting out of this one.
Yeah. Until a very convenient explosion happens, and
I'm still here.
Good. Yeah, that's good.
That was Harvey Dent.
That's Harvey. Yeah. I like the explosion. I think it's filmed well. I think it's a nice little change up here.
Yeah.
It makes sense that these guys would be like, even if he's found guilty, we're still clinging on. Even this guy that's abandoned this thing, this whole ideology, they're like, we're still clinging on to any semblance of hope that we can use this as an excuse to do shitty things. It's very, I don't even know if I want to make this point.
Oh boy.
Fuck it. Who cares at this point? It's very reminiscent of after the 2016 election, the day after, about all these incidents of people in hijabs getting attacked in the streets, hearing we're president now, fuck you, all this rhetoric that got emboldened. Yeah, it's the same exact thing that happens in this movie, where even though and again, he's found guilty of crimes, right? These people still cling to him.
They're like, no, that's our guy.
No, we like that about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bleak.
The guys that rescue Arthur here off the streets are exactly, I think, the type of guys that Phillips is mocking this entire movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you didn't get it. You don't get it. It's a joke that you won't get, just like Arthur says in the first movie.
Well, and they've got I am Jack's blank tattoos.
God. Yeah, the explosion happens. He escapes the courtroom. These guys pick him up and try to rescue him, but they tell him, like, oh, man, you're just like the first movie. You're bringing the whole city down, you know? And then he gets out of the car and runs away.
Right.
He goes to the stairs from the first movie.
Which look like shit now because they're covered in even more graffiti.
Yes. And again, if you'll recall, the only people that even know about these stairs being important to Arthur are him and the two cops from the last movie.
Right. I do think it's also worth noting that the two Joker stands who like pull him out of the rubble and drive him around town are like referencing him and like name like one of them goes, yeah, those fuckers got what they deserved. Like it feels like fanboy behavior.
Yeah.
And it like shows you, it hammers in how cringy it all is.
Yeah.
Could it be that, because we don't know who did the bomb, right?
No,
Right.
it's implied it's just a Joker fanatic.
Could it be those two guys? Or?
It could be, but that'd be really stupid because the first one that rescues him comes out in a daze.
Yeah.
Like he was affected by the blast, which I also would not put it past these two dum-dums.
Yeah.
Right, but he was also like extremely clean.
Yeah.
Like there was no debris on
That's
him,
true.
nothing. Maybe
That's
he
true.
was like, and then he just ran to the car that pulled up, like almost like it was planned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we also hear on the radio that thousands were in the blast radius. Like they did not even think about the collateral damage here.
Which would make sense.
Yeah.
That's fully in line with that shit, just like January 6th.
Sure.
Did not plan for collateral damage, but they don't give a shit. So, yeah, he goes up to Lee and he starts confronting her, and she goes, "There's not going to be a we. You denounced your persona, which was the only thing that made you interesting." He says, "But you're having my kid." She doesn't respond to that in any meaningful way.
Right. She just kind of stares at him.
And starts singing. And I like that he puts his hand over her mouth and says, "No more singing, please." And I'm like, yeah. Insane.
I was there. I was there with him.
But yeah, then she leaves. She says goodbye, Arthur. And then he's left alone at the stairs. He gets arrested. Again, the cops pull in. And then he goes back to Arkham. And Jackie, very Green Mile and very Shawshank Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
Someone says, "Arthur, you got a visitor." He goes to leave, not before Brendan Gleeson kind of gives a knowing look to one of the inmates.
Yeah.
And then as Arthur is walking to go to his meeting, this guy walks up who we've kind of seen in the background, but we've never been introduced to.
Right. He seems to really like Arthur though. Like
Yes.
every time Arthur is doing a little speech or singing, like we see him smiling.
Yes. And when Arthur denounced his persona at the trial, we do get a shot of that guy losing his smile very quickly.
Right.
But he says, "Hey, do you have time for a joke?" And he goes, "Yeah, make it fast." And he tells this joke. And at the end of this joke, the punchline is, "And he got what he fucking deserved." And he just shanks Arthur to death.
So
The most cloud-inspired song, too, you could have picked.
what if Arthur was like,
God damn it.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
All right. So, like, what if Arthur was like, "Look, man, I don't have time right now. Like, I got a visitor, apparently."
I guess stabbed in the back. I don't know. But I get you. But yeah, no, I feel like one of the failings of this movie, and there are many, is that we don't have any connection to this guy. And I know the implication is, well, the point is, it's just another person inspired by Arthur to become the Joker. But it would have worked so much better if we knew anything about this guy, because it just, at the end of the movie, you're like, oh, it's a random act of violence. But there are plenty of other movies that have done this ending better. Like, I'm thinking of like No Country for Old Men when the car accident happens. Like, it feels more in line with like the karmic justice system of that movie. But here it's just like, what's happening? Right?
Right.
And the part of this movie that I hate the most, that I do not stand with at all, is that this guy carves a Glasgow smile into his face at the end.
Which we see sort of in the background. Yeah.
So for those who don't know, let me get through this real quickly.
Yes, please.
The first movie, when Arthur is standing on top of the police car and he has the nosebleed and he takes the blood and puts the smile on his face.
Yes.
In that moment, the original script said he was going to carve a smile into his face. At that time, Christopher Nolan was still working with Warner Brothers with Tenet coming out.
Right.
He told them, you cannot do this. He goes, I will not allow it. If you do this, I'm leaving.
Right.
And they're like, okay, we won't do it. We're going to change it.
Because he didn't want anything to infringe on Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker,
Yes.
right?
He wanted to protect Heath Ledger's legacy as like the initial version of that character doing that. Because I think, Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but after that, they did that in the comics, right?
They've done a couple different, like Brian Azzarello had that Joker graphic novel that and Lee Bermejo drew him with the Glasgow smile. They've done a couple of alternate versions. The Arkham version has,
but it was post Dark Knight, right?
But it was all post Dark Knight.
And so at this point, the absolute shit show that was the Tenet release through Warner Brothers is what caused Nolan to say, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Right.
You guys don't respect art. He goes over to Universal, makes Oppenheimer. It's one of the biggest fucking movies of all time.
You like that movie, right?
I've been known to have an opinion or two on that movie. But that's when they say, okay, well then fuck it. This character's going to do it in this movie. Not only does it spit in the face of Nolan, it also spits in the face of Heath Ledger.
Sure.
Like, I am not opposed to characters doing that in other mediums, but you got to put a lot more distance in between Heath Ledger's death and this movie. And it's not even been 20 years that we're doing that.
Well, and also, there were all these interviews when the first movie came out where Todd Phillips rejected the notion that this Joker was in any way connected to other interpretations. And yeah, it feels cynical in a different way than the movie is.
The movie wants it to be like, oh, we're wrapping everything up neatly. Like, now you get where the Joker comes from.
You can imagine that guy is the guy who then in 10 years is fighting 20-year-old Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, and if you didn't like this movie, then the movie you fucking nerds fantasize about can be the one that you want.
Right.
But we don't even need it.
Right.
We don't need the Glasgow smile at all.
Yeah.
If you want to just show Arthur dead on the floor and play That's Life again and this guy laughing in the background, perfect. If that's what you want to do, that works way better than this. I
do want to say I love that as he's dying, he gets a little bit of a smirk. Like there is a nice little detail. But I agree. The smile is... It's a bummer. the Glasgow smile is a bummer.
I'm okay with this ending being what it is because of what the intention of the movie is, but that just really... I didn't even see it the first time. Didn't notice it at all until I was reading reviews and people talked about it, and I was like, oh, that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And then when I went back and saw it, I was like, you don't even need... He's out of focus doing it. You only hear it. The only way I noticed it the second time was the subtitles.
Right.
And I'm just like...
Sorry, Nathan, wasn't Death in the Family where the Joker just cuts his whole face off?
Oh yeah, that's also post Dark Knight. Yeah,
this guy could just cut his whole face off.
Take his face.
I just feel like that's not this movie.
Well, it also sets it up for like, oh, there's gonna be another one, and there's gonna be this crazy guy. Like,
I am so fucking over. I know we've talked about this before, but like the setting up the next movie, even if there's not going to be a next movie. Like,
I know.
I'm sure if I went right now and Google Joker 2 ending, I would find some forum where someone would go, oh, that guy's going to be the guy that fights Robert Pattinson's Batman. And I want to be like, shut the fuck up. Shut up forever.
I am on record saying the biggest misstep in Matt Reeves' The Batman is the Barry Coogan Joker scene at the end.
Awful. It's fucking awful.
It's tonally at a different film from everything else.
And I like Barry Coogan. Poor casting. Just straight up not who I want to see.
Well, unfortunately, I was like, I'd love to see more of what his take is going to be. And then they released that deleted scene and I was like, oh, it's what if I did Heath Ledger's Joker?
Can we put a I forgot what the word is, but a
moratorium?
Thank you. Exactly what I was looking for. A moratorium on Joker. I'm so fucking done with Joker until I'm like ready to retire. I don't want to see him on screen. I don't want to see. We've been so like since 2008. We've had Dark Knight. Yeah. We've had Heath Ledger's Joker. We've had 2 of these movies.
Yeah.
We've had, I'm sure, plenty of animated movies with Joker in it.
We've had Jared Leto a couple of times.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Suicide Squad too.
But here's my thing. And cut this if it's too stupid. But
if
a guy comes in and it looks like his name is Joaquin Phoenix, are you gonna say I won't put you as the Joker?
Yeah, that goes back to my Harley Quinn comment earlier. You're right. You got it. You're legally obligated to do it.
You have to do it. Yeah. Isn't it crazy? She should have changed her name to Lady Haha before they filmed this.
She should have been billed as that. No, we've done about as much as you can do with the Joker at this point. Like, just take a break. Give it, reel it back in.
Make him a baby.
Yeah, Joker, baby. God. All right. Well, I think that's everything I got to say about this movie. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you guys wanted to discuss?
No, I think we've done a really good job of talking about my mixed feelings as we've gone along. This is a movie that does not fundamentally work for me.
Sure.
I respect the wild swing, and I want to make it clear that my problems with it have nothing to do with comic book purity or sanctity, because the thing that's beautiful about comics is that they are adaptable.
Yeah.
One of the great things about Batman as a character is that you can drop him into literally any setting and he makes sense somehow. And so I'm not opposed to trying different things with these characters. I just think that there is a lack of follow through on a lot of the musicality here that sort of makes, and on the messaging of the first movie versus this one.
Yeah.
And of the Joker's character trajectory, of a Joker's character trajectory, that just makes the whole enterprise feel muddled and frustrating as a result.
Yeah. I can agree with that.
There are really bright spots in here. I do think Build a Mountain is exceptional. The Joker sequence in the courtroom is I think maybe the highlight of the film. But yeah, ultimately it feels like they wanted to do something different, but then didn't go far enough in a lot of ways. Yeah. And I'm going to echo what a lot of people have said in reviews, that I think Lady Gaga is underserved by this movie. Oh, we'll throw out that I think the Daniel Johnston cover that plays over the credits is a great choice.
Yeah.
Having Joaquin Phoenix sing True Love Will Find You in the end is a really interesting capper to this movie.
Yeah. And I will also point out that as we get into Prop Cop, I think you just coined my drag name, Bill the Mountain.
Bill,
all right, let's
good.
Let's get over.
Oh my God,
it's a Prop Cop. So for new listeners of the show, Prop Cop is where Nathan and I are going to look at the props that are in the movie Joker Folie, Deux, and we're going to pick one for ourselves. Nathan, what prop do you want from this movie?
So I was stuck between a couple of things. I really love Gaga's black jacket in the last scene. It's a good look. I also really enjoy the long microphones in the Sonny and Cher sequence. I would love to start recording on one of those.
I agree. I think I'm going to take the book that Arthur signs for the guard that says, "I hope you get cancer."
That's really good. That made me laugh really hard.
JT, is there a prop you think you want for this movie?
I was thinking of the Arkham Hotel giant neon sign during the dance scene.
Nice. Yeah, pretty cool.
But since you pointed out that legal pad, like if it's something I had to take on a plane with me or something, then yeah, I'll probably choose that.
There you go.
The Japanese or Chinese legal pad. Yep.
Shit. So okay. So it's also funny because it's like he slides it over, and it's like, hey, a couple questions from the top. Japanese or Chinese?
Yeah.
Next, do you think Lee can get a better seat?
That's his only 2 questions during this entire trial.
Yeah. Great choice.
All right, well, let's talk about bit part.
Things are worse than ever.
I thought that was pretty apt for this movie.
My favorite extra in any movie.
The Dark Knight, yeah.
Him and the guy that says, "No more dead cops."
I thought about putting that guy in, but I was like, the things, because I thought it would fit in perfectly with this movie.
So good.
So bit part, there's a lot of little minor roles in this movie, smaller characters. It would be pretty cool if Nathan and I were both having a Folie Deux together. Who should we play? Now, I'm going to let you have the one we talked about earlier, Nathan. That reporter is really fucking funny.
What does that even mean?
It's so good. But I think I'm going to take the guy that when Arthur says he's going to represent himself, he goes, "Finally."
That's good.
So, yeah.
I also want to throw out an alternate. The security guard who asks Arthur to sign his book. I think that's a really fun bit.
Pretty good.
Also, that guy gave an interview recently where he was just like, "That's the worst piece of shit I've ever seen, and I'm in it." Like, he's like, "I was there."
He's a comedian, right?
Yeah. He was like, "I was there all day, and that's what the movie is."
Dude, he was in Thanksgiving. The
Eli Roth.
It's so.
Oh wait, it's not Tim Dillon, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Is it? Holy shit, man! We got to do Thanksgiving one of these years when we're actually in November.
Yeah, let's do it.
Love that movie. All right, well, now that we're here, let's talk about the silver lining.
Wait, can I choose a bit part?
Oh, please, of course.
I want to choose the guy who fought Arthur for laughing at the guilty readings.
Oh, the dad.
That's good.
Shut the fuck up.
All right, silver linings.
Yes, let's get into silver linings.
There we go.
All right, so I guess I'll go ahead and go first.
Mm-hmm.
I think the obvious one is that all of Arthur's victims got closure and justice was served,
Mm-hmm.
both judicially and in a vigilante way. But I will also say Arthur got what he fucking deserved.
That's good.
That's him after he gets stabbed, right there.
I have two. One is a bullshit one.
Okay.
But it'll be hard to make Joker 3.
Yeah. Well, you would think that about the first movie. It'd be hard to make a sequel, but they found a way.
Absolutely, and you know what? They were right. The other one is everyone who worshipped the Joker got to see that he's not as cool as they thought he was.
Mm-hmm. I fully agree.
Whether that'll change their minds or not remains to be seen.
Well, unfortunately, for that to happen, a lot of those people had to see the movie. Also, I just noticed Gary is here in the wedding scene.
I know, in the wedding, yeah. Breaking it down.
Dancing and everything. Yeah.
Incredible. Man, that priest, the officiator, should have been somebody. Maybe that should have been our bit part, Nathan. I know you've already officiated one wedding, but maybe that should have been me.
I should, yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about a pick-me-up movie alternative.
Mm-hmm.
What's a movie people should watch after they watched Joker Folie I Do if they're not feeling too good?
I would recommend another semi-musical starring Catherine Keener and Steve Coogan. I may have actually recommended this on the show before, but Hamlet 2, a movie in which a frustrated drama teacher decides to write a musical sequel to Hamlet.
Okay, I'm into that.
It's really funny.
I think the obvious answer would be go watch The Batman, because I think that can show you what this universe can be and done very, very well.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick a very contentious choice here.
Oh, boy.
Now, I know you have a lot of thoughts about this movie. JT, I don't know if you've seen it or not. I think you have. But as I am with this movie, the movie I'm going to recommend is one that I know everyone did not like from this year, but I actually found it to be quite enjoyable.
Oh, boy. Oh, no.
I'm going to say I think a good pairing with this movie would be 2024's The Crow. Nathan's got his head in his hands for those listening. Look, man, it's, again, much like this movie, not a perfect movie.
Yeah.
There's tons to not like about The Crow, and I know you have your grievances with it.
You made some really good points about it, and I respect you as a human being.
And that's as far as that goes.
Well, as the mayor of movies, I feel like
that is the well, and as the district attorney of movies, you're out of order, sir.
I just don't. Oh my god!
Why did that go like 8
so
times?
many gaps? There's so many people weighing in on that one, but
oh boy.
No, I like the original Crow, but I don't have like a sentimental connection to it like you do. So like, to me, I felt like the Crow remake, again, not a perfect movie, definitely has its problems. And Alex Proyas is correct when he said it wasn't much of a cash grab after all. But I liked it for what it was. And
sure.
I think maybe I'm just getting too old to hate everything, but I found it enjoyable. I don't know what to tell you.
It's not the worst movie I've seen in the theaters this year.
There you go. It's certainly a movie.
And you know what? It's worth it for the fact that Bill Skarsgård spends about 70% of the runtime wearing a jacket that says goon on the back.
He's part of them goon squad, baby. Also, maybe that movie's got a typo in its title too. Maybe he should be called A Crow.
A Crow?
Maybe that would make you feel better about it.
Maybe it would.
Well, lastly, do we recommend Joker Folie à Deux? I think I know where you stand with it, but feel free to elaborate.
I think if you are not watching this movie strictly to protest that it's a musical, you're doing yourself a disservice. I think if you appreciated the first film and want to see the story continue, you should watch it. I think that it is such a weird bit of anti-consumerist art that it should be. I think everyone should give it a shot.
Yeah.
I don't like this movie, but I won't hold it against somebody if they're curious and want to watch it for themselves. I think you should make up your own mind about it.
I fully agree. If you're joke curious, put this one on.
Yeah.
And again, this is not a perfect movie. I don't think it's a masterpiece. I don't think it's as good as the first movie. It definitely doesn't deserve any Oscars other than Lee Gill, and I fully stand behind that.
Well, like you said, the score is still really great.
Incredible.
I wouldn't be angry if I saw that get a nom.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not in this world anymore where I just want to hate on things just to hate them. There's plenty of other movies out there that are way worse than Joker 2 to me.
Yeah.
This is a big swing, as you talked about. It was Todd Phillips' blank check.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe Bradley Cooper was the missing ingredient because he produced the first movie. And
Do you think on the first movie he was reining it in?
he certainly, like, maybe he told Gaga, he was like, you're making a mistake. I don't know.
For the listener, I did the voice, or I did the face too.
He sure did. But yeah, I think put your expectations aside and just deal with this movie as it is. It's not perfect. The messaging is flawed. It doesn't always adhere to what it's going to do. But I think if you put aside what you think the movie should be, you might enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
And I think I'm glad that this is the conclusion. Like,
I do appreciate that this is a clear final button.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of how I felt about Breaking Bad and El Camino, where we didn't need El Camino. I'm one of the people that really enjoyed it.
I love El Camino.
Thank you. A lot of people were like, we didn't need it. It was dumb. It didn't make any sense, whatever. But I thought it was brilliant. And I'm so glad we got that cap to that story. So I feel the same way about this movie. I would have been perfectly fine without it, but I'm glad it exists. I'm glad that people are making big swings with big studio money.
Yeah.
And if you're going to make any studio out there fork up almost $200 million, Warner Brothers is the one to do it.
No, I mean, this is a movie made with fuck you money.
Yes,
which
it was.
I kind of appreciate the sheer audacity of it.
And I'm going to say a statement that's going to put a pit in your stomach, Nathan, but this movie exists and it stands on the corpse of Batgirl. So we do have to contend with that.
It stands on the corpse of Batgirl and Acme v. Coyote.
I wanted Acme v. Coyote so bad, man.
And Scoob 2 or whatever that shit was called.
David Zaslav's still a criminal, and I stand by what I said about him on the Judas and the Black Messiah episode. So anyway,
I swear every time I see a BTS shot from Batgirl, I mourn that movie. It may have been bad. It may have been like every other DC movie of the last several years. But you know what? I would. Movies deserve to be made.
At the very least, put it on streaming. You have nothing to lose by putting it there.
Movies deserve to be released. Unless there are sequels to 365 days.
Yeah, that's very true. All right. Well, JT, do you have any closing thoughts about Joker 2?
No, I think Nathan, I agree with Nathan when he said, if you want to see a continuation and a definite end, watch it. It's fine. I don't know if you guys have a number rating you would give it. I'd say a solid 6 out of 5 or 6.5 out of 7.
A solid 5 out of 7.
6.5 or 7
on the Joker scale.
Yeah, the Joker scale goes to 1,000. By the way,
yeah.
If I'm doing Ebert's like 4-star rating, I'd probably give it like a 2.5.
If we're doing it out of like haha, I'd give it like a
not a scowl,
like a hearty chuckle.
Did all three of us use different scales?
Yeah. Okay, now on the Kinsey scale, I'd give this movie.
So that is Joker 2, Folie Adieu, Smoker Adieu, whatever you want to call it. If you haven't already, please subscribe, rate, and leave feedback on our show wherever you're listening to us right now. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and we have a subreddit over on reddit.com/r/Silver Linings Playlist. You can check out our website at tslppodcast.com. You can leave us a suggestion by emailing us at thesilverliningsplaylist@gmail.com, or you can, give us some feedback, tell us how we're doing, whatever you want to do. You can also use the contact us forum on our website. And, I'm going to start something new because eventually I'm going to run out of bit parts to put in here. So if you've got a suggestion for a bit part that you want to hear put on the soundboard as a cue, you can use our email, or you can use the contact us form on our website and send in a bit part suggestion, and I'll look into it. And lastly, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/silverliningsplaylist, where Nathan and I are probably wrapping up Show Guys at this point fairly soon.
We're getting there.
But we have ideas for other shows we're going to do there. And I put out the Noah episode early for people that are on our Patreon.
Yeah, very exciting.
So I can't promise I can do that for every episode because I do have to edit them. But every time I can, I'll give you guys the episode at least a day early.
Yes, sir. So
if you want that, it's only $1 a month and you get a 7-day free trial just by signing up. So check that out. It's patreon.com/Silver Linings Playlist. Now, Nathan, next week is your pick.
Yeah.
And I should also mention, this one was neither of our picks, but it felt like we were compelled to do it.
Yes.
So now we're getting into like the movies we really want to talk about. So next week is our Christmas episode.
That's right.
And you have a clue for what we're going to be talking about.
I do. Ho ho fuck. Next week's episode is coming from inside the house.
Oh, this movie wouldn't happen to have any amount of fellatio in it at all, though.
Yeah, it's a new exchange.
Okay, I was gonna say, because I can't handle if it's got any of that tomfoolery in there. All right, well, thank you everyone for listening. JT, thank you for being on the 10s and 2s on the soundboard today. I really appreciate that. And as always, that's life.
We love our wives.
And we love our wives so much.
So much.
So much.
I guess we have to stay tuned for the stories on next.
Episode.
Yeah,
Should
let's
we do
wrap
that?
it up because my story's perfect for this.
Let's put it as a tag after the music. Does that work?
Sure.
All right.
Stay tuned.
All right, go ahead, Nathan.
So, that's for Nathan's sad story time.
Well, there's not a Nathan happy story time button. I'm going to
wait. Also, we missed a perfect transition here. Yeah, go ahead.
So I've hovered over this button thinking like, I need a good time to do it. I need a good time. And I just never had one.
Now is the time.
So I was driving home from the Thanksgiving holiday this past weekend, and we needed a restroom. There was a place that was advertised, giant billboards, cleanest restrooms in the area, biggest, cleanest restrooms, literally was on a billboard. We pull into this gas station, go in, and the people inside go, y'all, there's no bathroom.
What?
They said it like that. I turn around, they're all smiling like they're in on some fucked up joke. And I gotta tell you, stopping at a place that advertises big bathrooms is like going into the Joker sequel and finding out that it's a musical.
Wait a minute, they don't exist? What do they mean?
They were just like, there's no, like,
they're not available?
Yeah, because I was like, where do you shit?
Yeah.
No, they did not have them. And then Ashley and I went on Reddit because we wanted to get to the bottom of it. We Googled that gas station. There was like a Google review that was just like, they advertise bathrooms and they don't exist.
What?
Yeah,
I've never heard of any building just straight up not having a bathroom.
That's all I gotta say. And so, like,
where do they shit?
Where do the workers shit?
I hope they don't.
Oh, they're one of the people that don't?
I hope they're all impacted.
Or what, are they not wrong though? With cleanest bathrooms, we just don't have fucking bathrooms.
Yeah, there you go. It's not false advertising.
If you don't have them, you can't shit in a bathroom if you don't have it.
This is a Nathan for you skit. Like, where's the cleanest bathrooms in the country because we don't have any. Ugh, insane. Hello, YouTube. If you've made it this far, thanks. Could you do us one more favor? Could you hit those like and subscribe buttons? Maybe leave us a comment on what you think of the show. We'd really appreciate it. Join us again next week for an all-new episode. Bye.